Okay, good afternoon. This is the Townsend Finance Committee. Call the meeting to order at 4 o'clock for August 5th, 2024. As we have remote member to voice roll call.
Andrea Wood here.
Gerald is here. I don't know everything. Gerald Huffs is here.
Okay, thank you. And Don Hayes here. That is 4 members, so we are good to go with a quorum. Let me just get shared and we'll bring up the agenda and start. Try this again. Okay, so I'm gonna minimize the attendance window just to make it easier.
Oh, I guess I didn't print up the latest one. It's like, you know, an older one. It's like a newer one, yes.
On the back side, okay. So this meeting is being recorded, and it will be played back on Channel 9. It will be available also on YouTube. Item 4 on the preliminaries. At this time, I have no additions or deletions to the agenda. Well, I apologize. I did not print the minutes to have them here, but if everybody had them and read them, I can call them up and we can look at them. And we'll start with July 23rd was
I have copies, so
okay, thank you.
since I typed them, I already know what they say, so.
And of course, you think I could find it. I have the agendas, not minutes. Yes, meeting minutes. Andrea, had you read the minutes previously, or would you?
I didn't see them previously.
Okay, I am displaying the.
Oh,
meeting
I see them now. Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to read through them so that we can see that we've captured everything. And if you want them little larger, let me know and I can pull them up a little bit.
On the attendance, didn't Sam Grant come in late?
On the 23rd, or was that the 30th?
Oh, maybe that was the 30th.
No, you're, hang on,
I think it was the 30th.
let me double check.
They're beginning to blend into one long meeting.
Yeah, yes, they do. It's kind of like week after week.
Yeah,
Um,
like laundry.
Yeah.
It's never ending.
Okay, so let me open again. Let's see what we have on the 30th. Sam Grant remotely. So I think Sam was with us on the 30th. So so it could be that he joined about 10 minutes late, I think, on the 23rd. And we may have heard that, so that would be a change.
Okay, so what would that be? Is he just put late?
Yep, that's all. He was.
Tony joined late remotely?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
yeah. And
What do you say?
thank you, Andrea. I will
Okay, I can fix that.
pick up on that. Okay, so that, um. Any other changes that we can see? Do we want to make a motion to approve the minutes with the change?
Make a motion to approve the minutes with the change.
And I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes with the change of adding the attendance of, Sam Grant. For the July 23rd minutes, roll call vote, please.
Darren Bezikas, yes?
Carol Hofstas, yes.
Andrea Wood, yes.
Don Hayes, yes, so one little change and we can submit those.
Okay, fix those and send them to you.
Thank you. And the meeting minutes for July 30th.
I thought that was the one that needed to be changed.
Now, Sam Grant is showing it in attendance on the 30th.
Oh, okay, so I just had to put, okay, so this doesn't go there.
Yep.
He's joined.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
This was- Okay.
Okay, and the meeting minutes for July 30th.
Going to make a motion to approve the minutes of July 30th,
yep.
2025.
Andrea, have you had the chance to read?
I'm still reading.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
yep. And if anybody in the room wants it blown up, I can blow it up on the screen as best we can.
I'm all set with them.
Okay, so we did. We have a, motion to approve the meeting minutes for July 30th. Do we have a second?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for July 30th.
Okay,
Okay, now
No.
second it.
second, thank you. And a roll call vote to accept the meeting minutes for July
Darren
30th.
Bezikas, yes?
Carol Hofstas, yes.
Andrea Wood, yes.
Don Hayes, yes. And I thank you, Carol, for taking care of that for those.
Okay.
So I don't have any more. Back to the agenda. All right, so after those minutes, we have update on the FY 25 budget. Thought I heard some footsteps come in.
Want me to join you up there?
If you want, if you prefer, I think. I think,
I didn't realize you had a meeting tonight and then didn't realize it was here.
okay, no, sorry, I didn't copy you, I had Sabrina run. Thank you. We were just trying to get this in beforehand because I know we were looking to try to get recommendations prior and thoughts prior to,
So I sent everybody an email this afternoon with
okay, with another new,
another new one. This is going through. I start tracking these by minutes because they change on a regular basis.
Thanks.
Not to exclude all the public here. Article 1 is pretty straightforward. That's a prior year bill. The water department comes back from FY 23. And that's just we're gonna raise it appropriate. I looked into taking out of the water enterprise fund,
Hmm,
and Katie said it doesn't work.
no, because usually we have to transfer that money at the annual, it's kind of like, so they transfer the money.
They transferred from the, enterprise fund during special town meetings in the past.
Yes, but Katie had some other accounting reason why we couldn't take it out of it, and I figured for $600, I wasn't gonna go to the mat and fight that battle. But anyway,
What's a badger meter?
well, I had to find out. The water meters communicate through a cellular type system back to the department. So I believe they don't have to send someone to everybody's house, they can read the radio waves. And
Yeah.
the meter is read remotely this way. I heard a side benefit is the water department can actually track someone's usage, and
Yes, they
they've had cases where somebody's usage
can.
went over the top, and they said, we think maybe you have a leak.
Yes, they did, and
Well-
I did have a leak, and they did tell me, they did call me. and
Okay,
say,
so I heard that story, I didn't know it was attributed to you, but
Well, there's
Well-
multiple people.
I'm sure it's multiple people, but yes, it does work, and they did call me and tell me my toilet was leaking. Or
Yeah.
probably my toilet,
Yeah.
and it was,
It's-
so that's what this article's about. It's,
okay.
it's an old one, so it's gonna take a 9/10 vote.
Can the public ask a question, please?
And, okay, yeah,
If raise and appropriate, that's not from the general fund, that's from the water fund, right?
No,
No.
it'll be for the
No.
general.
No,
The accountant said there was reasons why it couldn't be from the water enterprise fund.
but it,
So
and
it's-
this isn't,
But that
It's-
means that people
it's-
that
it's-
are not water takers,
but I believe what we're doing is we're paying a prior year bill, which was FY 24, which we did the transfer at the annual town meeting from water enterprise. And we've transferred that money.
oh, you already did that.
We did it last year, we're just paying the bill on the older one.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so, and again, I think that's why we're not talking about doing an additional transfer for FY 25. We did the transfer at annual town meeting also. So I think that's why we're going from the general fund rather than going back to water department and asking them to.
Any other questions on that one? Do you plan to make a recommendation as we go, or
Um,
not at all, or later on, or?
I had thought we would try to make the recommendation, as we go, but that would delay you. If you've got other things to do, we can go through and then we can go back and vote.
Except if you'd like me to get it in the warrant, I need to know tonight.
Yep.
So,
No,
cause I'm gonna wrap it up with the board and then print it and post it tomorrow, so it's your call how you wanna do this.
It's kind of a straightforward thing, this
this one is straightforward, so we can
Just recommend it.
entertain the motion to recommend Article 1.
I'll recommend to vote Article 1.
And I'll second it.
Okay, any additional discussion on paying the prior year bill? None being heard, a roll call vote in the affirmative is to recommend paying.
Carol Mazik, yes.
Carol Hoff says yes.
Andrea would know.
John Hayes, yes. Kinda. So, 31.
Article 2 is to transfer an additional $100,000 from the ambulance receipts account to be used to operate the EMS, which will essentially reduce the funds that have to come elsewhere, but it goes from ambulance receipts to the EMS account. I've talked to the chief a couple times and he's agreeable to this change.
Is this something that is also going to move forward into next year, and year over year, we'll be trying to transfer the 800,000 to, because we're covering a budget increase. So I guess that was something I started. We're doing article by article, but as I read this, we're adding almost $1.1 million to the budget. And now we're coming up with the ways that we're gonna pay that budget. And this FY 25's budget would be our baseline going into FY 26, which means we're gonna have to, everything we take and do this year, we have to do next year. Unless we're expecting this 100,000 to come from somewhere else, and I'd like to identify that if we could. If it's not gonna be another 800,000 from ambulance receipts next year.
The short answer is, I can't forecast what the plans will be for next year. But I believe that this is a number that still leaves money in the ambulance receipts account. And there's 905 in there already as of the end of June, so that they have some basis for going forward. This and some other things you'll see are attempts to use available funds to make the budget work.
And again, that's to get a balanced budget for this year, but if this is now, if we do this, this is 100,000 that we have to look at for FY 26 that we have to come up with. And make sure it's available to us, so, if that's why I'm asking, is the target gonna be 800,000 again next year? And if not, then we're gonna be.
I guess I'm gonna say I can't answer that.
Okay, that's.
I mean, without, one, I'm not gonna be here, so you can't hold me to whatever I
Yeah,
said
no,
next
I
year.
understood, but.
But, and I don't wanna prejudice the next administration with
And
commitments that I can't follow through.
right, but that would be our recommendation going in, that this remains our base number.
Isn't this idea of finding out that answer, that particular answer, kind of in a part of this ongoing 5-year plan we're supposed to have?
It would be for me. It's kind of like, because it's not only the expenses, but it's the revenues coming in.
Absolutely.
How are we going to maintain them? So if this is coming from a revolving fund, and so if we're taking 800 this year, we're expecting that is going to be the 800 next year to support the and operate EMS. Same as this. And this is going to be the common theme as we go through here. How we're doing it. So we could recommend this, but the caveat's gonna be in our recommendations, if we do recommend it, that it needs to be. And again, we're supposed to base operating budget on recurring funds, which is generally your tax revenue and fees that we're coming in. So we would be counting on this going into next year. If not, we identify it as a potential $100,000 hole going into FY 26's budget.
So I can answer half of that question. Is the chief feel very confident that these funds will continue to be generated? Whether they should be continually be allocated back into operations versus left in the stabilization is one that I can't answer for.
Right.
But I think the ambulance will continue to generate this volume of funds. As I said, they're already at 900,000 and we're only taking 800 out this year.
Yeah, okay.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
is your concern that the base that you would be starting with for 26 not increase? This is almost like using free cash from the ambulance fund to help deficit.
That's where we are. It's kind of like if we look at the debits and the credits, this
Right?
would be a credit coming in, and it's 800,000 this
A
year.
one-time credit.
It's a one-time credit.
Yeah,
And next year, if we're counting on these one-time credits,
We are,
How do we know we can count on it?
right?
Well, the fund has been increasing, the ambulance is continuing to be busy. And I don't know that we can suggest that there'll be less ambulance runs in the future year. So. What I'm trying to do throughout this whole budget is to put to work available funds. And they're coming from different sources,
Mhm.
but it's money that we've collected from one reason or another, and I'm trying to put it to work. To me, having a balance in any account looks good. But it's money that the taxpayers have somehow funded, in this case, it's patients and hospitals.
Mhm.
Put the money to work and use it for, to keep operations
Yeah.
going. And that'll be the theme sort of through the rest of the budget discussion.
So, okay, so. And we have the FY 25 discussion and we have the future discussion. If we're
I
trying to
have
balance,
one more thing, Don.
yep,
I know that we're putting this money into the ambulance department. So to fund their budget. So the money that was there now can go to offsetting our deficit. But
correct.
how about next year? I mean, I understand what you're saying about this, but will we? I'm sorry. I don't know how to express what I'm worried about.
You, we're worried about how to fund the budget for next year. If the budget for next year would be the same as we had for May of this year, and it's only 700,000 coming from ambulance receipts, there's $100,000 that we have to come up with in other revenue.
And I
To do.
believe that using those funds, the selectmen or us or anyone else can't force it. Chief has to agree to do it.
Right.
So this is a one-time agreement,
This would be a one-time agreement,
so we have to come back next year and ask him for the same.
yes, yeah, look at the receipts and see if it's available.
And if it's available, he could still say no.
Mhm. Right, he may have another use, whether it's a new ambulance, it's kind of like if it's gonna
Yeah.
be used for capital projects, there's
New
other.
fire trucks,
Yeah,
whatever.
well, the new fire trucks have been approved,
Oh.
and so it's just a matter of when they
They
order
haven't
them.
come in yet.
They haven't come in yet.
Are they paid for?
No.
So how are you gonna pay for them?
Well, that's,
I mean,
That's 100.
That's-
Well, that was
That's where
determined when those
capital-
articles were passed, so I can't
right,
speak for how.
it's kind of like,
long
so those articles were passed and they said they would be
this is
funded.
why I'm so confused. You pass articles that you have no money for?
If,
This year we did.
yeah,
But-
it's kind of, but
No,
this year, the articles passed, we didn't have the money, but we said bond. And we were taking out a bond to pay for them. So we'd have to go back,
For a minute.
we'd have to go back to whatever year they passed, whether it was FY 23.
Now do you pay interest on the bond or, I don't know.
Yeah, you would pay interest on the bond.
We're not paying interest until we actually.
Until we actually
Until we
take
actually borrow the money, but bonding was approved, if that's how the funding was.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have like a line of credit and it doesn't charge until you actually use the
Use it,
money?
yeah.
Okay.
You wanna move on,
Okay.
you wanna do a recommendation at this point?
What? Let's, I think we can, I'd like to move on. I don't know if we're gonna be able to get to a recommendation on this one. Again, if it's this year and we're talking this year, it's 100,000, it's in the fund and the chief has agreed to it. But it still comes to the overall, what's the plan past FY 25? And how are we gonna get there? How are we gonna, if we take this 100,000 and say, it might not be here next year and put it in a pile. And then we're gonna keep on going down, we're gonna have about $400,000 of this. That we have to figure out how it's coming from. It's kind of like, I don't think. the rest of the taxpayers are gonna be looking forward to a, a budget that's a $500,000 deficit budget overall, even though we're doing these things this year with expected one-time funds.
Because they're gonna be-
Another nice thing to know would be, though the ambulance receipts are good, the non-collectible, are they on the rise? Are they on the fall? Are they maintaining an equal, kind of an equal, the same amount?
Right, yeah, you'd like to know the aging report versus the write-off and.
Yeah, because if non-collectibles are increasing or are extremely large, that's not a good foreboding.
So you say non-collectibles, like the ambulance service can't collect their fee for whatever reason.
Yeah,
So
and a
we have,
lot of them are legitimate reasons, like the person who did it died or whatever.
Yeah.
The ambulance department has a collection agent that does it, and they give us a report once a year, I think.
We should be,
The selectmen write it off.
yeah, we should be probably looking at it more
Okay,
regularly than that. I would think.
you would
Yeah,
think,
I
so
would.
you know at least if there's a trend of
Mhm.
collectibles going up or non-collectibles going up or
Right.
down.
Oh, and the receipts, I mean,
Yeah.
it's almost like we should be seeing.
And
Right.
that's true, then you could have, then you'll have
Then
a
you-
better picture.
You have a better picture of it going in, you're not gonna be surprised in March when you try to come up with the number.
Yeah.
And hit it, so to Russ's question, do we want to make a motion on this, or do we need to have discussion and in order to get Russ moving so that he gets his next meeting, which is 5:30, that he can do that.
You wanna just keep moving, so
Yeah,
we could always
if-
come back to it.
if they seem clean, we can
Go
we
right
can-
through.
we can take it and we can go through.
so would you send me a note after the meeting as to which ones you recommend?
Mhm.
And whether your option would be to recommend on town meeting floor, but it would be nice to know.
Right. Yeah.
Where you are before we get there.
So I tried to catch it here, so.
Okay, Article 3. Article 3 is to reduce 4 line items that were voted in May. The total is $113,800 reduction in the municipal side of the budget. I told you we were adjusting the line item for the town administrative salary because they negotiated a lower number than was budgeted.
Mhm.
Same with the automobile allowance.
Yeah.
And then MIS has been, MIS
Yeah.
has been putting in fiber cables between buildings, which will reduce individual Comcast bills and reduce the cost we pay each month for antivirus type screening. So we've calculated this to be a $10,000 savings, which is why I put that in there.
Mhm.
The big item, the big contributor is the police had asked for and been approved back in May, a $95,000 annual lease for 4 cruisers.
Mhm.
The intent was to get the money, go ahead on July 1 and give the notice to the vendor and it'll take them multiple months to build the cars. Chief is okay with holding this back until December timeframe.
Mhm.
The assumption is that there will be a special town meeting at that point. The town will have certified free cash from FY 24.
Mhm.
That free cash is anticipated to get a bump, which was the sale of a couple properties last year, so. I feel confident that the free cash will be there. You could take out the 95,000 and I'll, spoiler alert, I'll talk about stabilization later on today.
Okay, yeah.
But we could replenish those amounts from free cash and still have sort of the normal annual free cash to work with for capital items or whatever you want to do in May. Snow,
Yeah,
ice.
snow and ice. But that 95,000, we're going in, we're just hiding 95,000 for now.
I
because
prefer
we're
to
gonna-
say delaying versus hiding, but
It's coming to zero on the budget now. Again, my question was, how does the chief handle the time frame between now and when the new lease is there? And is there any cost that he's gonna have to pay to keep the existing 4 vehicles going?
good question. And I asked him, and the lease of the current vehicles is in his budget already as a line item. It's buried under a cost item there.
Why,
Not-
why is it increased to cover 4 leases when last year it was only 3?
Why is he doing 4 cars this year versus 3? Is that
Yeah,
your question?
yeah.
Shorter answer is I can't answer that, but I would say it's because he's got 4 cars that he think have hit maximum, or preferred maximum mileage.
Which means of the fleet that they have, they've used one car more times than the other cars?
I think that is true sort of as normal operations, and I think they also rotate cars that get high usage. And as they start to go end of life, they move them to be the court car, the one, they drive to court versus on regular patrols.
Yeah, well, that's always been the case, but we've never answered it by getting another car. Last year it was 3. I even remember not that long ago, it was only 2.
I think it was 3 last year.
It was 3 last year.
How many cars do they have total?
I'm sorry, I can't answer that one.
But this would have been talked about in all of your budget sessions
Right, this-
already.
Yeah, so this,
Why can't, is this money, why can't we use ARPA money on this?
well, it's a lease and it's ongoing. And we wanted, it's gonna be a multiple year lease. And so ARPA money would not be able to fund it. ARPA money seemed to fund some positions at the time, not necessarily the equipment. This is ongoing equipment that is required. And again, if we've taken this $95,000, going to zero for now, and then in the fall, we're coming back and doing it with one-time funds, which is free cash. This is another one of those that $95,000 is gonna hit the budget next year. So now we're at $195,000 that we're looking for.
Hmm.
I
That's
have
only,
a question too about the MIS one.
Yeah.
Before the bill for that, last time we discussed this, it would save approximately $10,000. Well, when they get the fibers all connected and put in, I mean $10,000, and they get it all in, and it only saves $5,000. What do we do then? We have to go to a special town meeting to raise the money to put the MIS budget to where it should be? It seems to me you're jumping the gun. You've not got the $10,000 in hand, $10,000 in hand. You only anticipate that will be the amount saved, but you don't know. It doesn't seem like I'm not positive. It's not a good reason to lower a budget.
Well, the savings was gonna be on monthly bills, so we don't have it in hand, but we're not gonna be paying each month once the fiber is going. When I added it up, I was getting 11,000 and change, but I put in 10,000 just to be sure we didn't get stuck with a month or 2 in between when we hadn't had the savings.
Well, that was a good idea.
but the rest of the MIS budget, and again, we're only into the first full month, so I haven't seen the BVA yet to see we did increase the actual big budget for MIS. So let me see if I can clear filters and get the budget up. For MIS. and see if we can blow it up a little bit for folks. So,
So you go into how I got that 10,000 or?
um. You can do that. I was just going back up for we had increased the regular MIS budget for, to 160,000 this year. My expectation would be this budget is for um, the monthly bill for the contract, the licenses, and it is also project time built into that. So every month, we have a certain number of hours with the IT group to do projects. If we start falling low on the communications, it could be coming from there, or the other purchase services went up to 15,000 this year. So we do have another item that was in there for the first time this year. Line 109 in the budget. So there would be a couple of places that if we don't hit the target of 10,000, that we look at it. And then the other potential is replacement equipment if they don't use that, or if they, if we're not getting the savings on the MIS communications, we hit that. But then again, my next question for the budget and going in, probably more for the selectmen. We have a selectman that's really the IT lead. What do we do when that selectman is no longer a selectman? What's the town going to do for the IT lead and interface? Is there another position that we're gonna?
We've been using another employee to help with immediate desktop issues,
Mhm.
where he can go out and look and see if there's something. I mean, I have personally seen it where in another town, someone said my computer's not working. Instead of calling the IT professional, he
Mhm.
sends this person in, who happens to be someone in this case, and he finds it's unplugged. I mean, that's pretty simple, but that saved you a 2 hour.
A
Call from
minimum
the service
call
department.
on the contract, so the hours aren't.
And so this person in Townsend's been helping with
Mhm.
moving equipment and things that
And that,
maybe a technical eye can review and reduce having to call the professional.
right, and that stipend is listed on line 105. In the salary, so that it's, and it was negotiated with the union that he was able to do.
I think we did that 3 years ago when I was here. We started that.
Yeah.
Um, 320, 3245.
Yep, it went up, the 4%, this year. With the salary, so I think this place is understanding that we replace the fiber and it's trying to drive down the monthly costs. Yeah, the monthly costs, I think we can understand that, but again, we'll be watching the BVA to see whether.
Yes.
Those, yeah.
That fiber's further along now. I think it's actually in,
Mhm.
and starting up. So that was further along than it was back in April, May, when they were working on this budget.
Right. Yeah, and that's the piece, it's kind of like, we had to do the budget starting in December, have it and try to get it in advance, so that 10,000 is reasonable. It's the 95,000 that I look at. I don't think because of the fiber and that, I don't think the 10,000, but my concern is on this line is the 95,000.
Well, I was hoping that spending something later than sooner was a step in the right direction, so.
It's, again, we have the cash this year, and we're gonna use free cash. We get to FY 26, and that's 95,000 more dollars that we have to come up with.
Or is it 195?
No, it's 195 if we take the for Article 2. So it's the list can grow. And again, that's just looking at these articles. We have the ARPA funded positions that we also have to figure in into where this stuff is gonna be. Where are we actually in the budget, and where do we sit?
When do
Well, I
we
have
have
my own
to
feelings, I think.
Run out? they have to be allocated by December of this year and they run out December 31st of 26, which is in the FY 27 budget. So they're gone halfway through the FY 27 budget.
Mr. Chair? I thought
Yes.
I understood it, but now I'm confused. I thought what Ross was saying on the cruiser thing
Mhm.
was basically you're gonna take the budget that now shows the 95,000,
Mhm.
95,000, and you're gonna zero that out. So it's negating the original vote, if you will.
Right,
Okay,
yep.
so you're reducing your budget, but come the fall town meeting, you may be able to add that back in as a new article paid for by free cash.
Correct.
But if the intent of the original 95 was to go forward with that
Mhm.
to the next year, then the net is the same.
Correct.
The net on 25, on 26 is the same.
It is, and that's why my little
Okay.
keeping on the side was $100,000 from Article 2, and Article 3 is potentially another 95,000 that we would be looking for in FY 26.
No, you're not gonna be looking for it any more than you would have anyway, right?
If we take the FY 25 budget that we voted in May, it would be there, and that would be our base for FY 26. If we take it out now and go to zero, and then try to do an FY 26
Then
budget,
it's gonna go in.
it looks like zero. It's gonna go in as 95 again. So lines that we're delaying, putting to zero and then bringing back are gonna be there looking for the full funding in FY 26. So that's,
Except that this is a recurring thing anyway, it's usually in his.
it's
expenses.
usually in his budget. This was just a delay to try to get us to a balanced budget presenting at the special town meeting.
A lot of towns do their police cruisers as a capital expense.
Yeah, we went back.
And I understand if it's gonna be a recurring lease, put it in your operating budget and move on. This is just trying to delay a cost so that the budget works. And the ambulance receipts and other things are an attempt to use every little bit of revenue. I mean, the budget, the town's budget is funded by more than just property taxes. There's other revenues
Right.
that, like $6 million or so dollars in revenues that we get from other
Right.
sources. This is just trying to use some of these sources and delaying things.
Right, and again, we get the free cash may not be there to fund the leases next year, so it's kind of, that's,
Presumably, if you delay your police cruisers by 6 or 7 months, then
this,
that delays the next purchase by 6 or 7 months.
right, so this would take it to, for FY 25, we'd probably be looking for half of that 95, so we'd be looking at 47,50. 47,500. When we get to the fall, but. And the other pieces that we're reducing, the only one that looks like it would be ongoing is the reduction of the MIS communication. The other two would revert to the contract for the new town administrator.
Yes, but that's theoretically is set for years.
It's set for 3 years, and we can put those numbers in the budget. It's kind of, and I would anticipate that we're there, and with the Prop 2.5 and the increase in recurring revenue, that we would be able to cover that, along with the other increased lines that would increase year over year. My concern is that where does the 95,000 come from in FY 26? So, again, understand what we're trying to do. I think we have to present it as a whole thing to the town that says, this is what we're trying to do for FY 25. It does nothing for FY 26, and these are the cautionary tales that we have if they're gonna vote for it. It's kind of like, because we're vote. And again, I think it comes to the schools and their budget, because we voted a level funded budget for the schools going in. That's Those are the main pieces, those are some of the main pieces we're talking about here.
Well, I didn't think that proposing cuts would be controversial, but
Hey, the
I
first,
understand
first,
your
first three are
concern
not
about next year.
controversial. The first three cuts are not controversial. In my opinion, and again, I'm doing all the talking. Yes.
But 95 is not really a cut, it's just a
It's a
delay.
delay.
It's a
Abs-
delay, so
absolutely
it's,
a
so
delay.
it's not really, it's not a cut, it's just a delay.
Yes, but it's also not coming from tax dollars, but coming from one-time
Right.
fund.
And again, it's kind of like when we say tax revenue, we're talking recurring revenue sources. It could be cherry sheet, it could be excise tax, it could be the real estate tax. It's kind of like all of the revenue sources bundled in are recurring.
It's not part of your levy limit.
The levy limit is what it is, and we voted not to override 2.5. We had the 2.5 increase.
You're gonna be like, I gotta get out of here, but bottom's falling. You're gonna be running for the door. Because by the time your term is up, the bottom's gonna be falling.
Okay, I'm sorry.
This rate, it's not the taxpayer's problem. It will be, but it's yours, and you and Ken won't kind of move.
I'm sorry, it's kind of like I'm seeing.
Might really be.
Could I ask your name, Jake? That we recognize you? Yeah, and your last name, Kay? Okay, and again, when I'm sharing, I apologize. It's kind of like I didn't know anybody else had come in. You can interrupt because when I'm sharing, I don't see the audio screen, or the screen of, guests. So you can break in and ask to be heard. Appreciate it. So, I guess back to Article 3, reductions are good. It's just the reductions for A, B, and C are straightforward. They're gonna be a reduction. They come back in with the normal increases based on the contract next year. And we continue to hope that the reduced line on MIS is there because fiber is installed. It's the one that goes away and comes back that is raising the grief on that one. So we'll come back and visit Article 3. It's kind of like give you the opportunity to,
Article 4 is the big hitter. That shows up as an increase. This is for North Middlesex Regional School District. It shows an assessment increase of $691,284. And that's because what was in the May budget level funded or showed zero increase. This number is not what they've asked for. Their assessment is much higher than this. What I, well, with some thought, I provided them with I estimated a 6% increase, and that's what this 691,284 represents. Because, well, it's certainly higher than the municipal increase. And it's a number that if actually approved and filtered through, would balance the budget, or we would have a balanced budget. So if the town meeting agrees to take this number, 691,284, it's still essentially voting no on the assessment that the school sent us on July 10th. So it counts as a no vote on their assessment. If Ashby also votes no, then their number's been rejected and they have to come back with a new number. They apparently have a school committee meeting scheduled for 2 days after our town meeting on August 22nd.
What was the percentage they were asking for, please?
7.4 is what I had on my sheets.
Thank you.
I suggested to the school that if they accepted this number and they wouldn't have to live with a 112 budget for another couple months. We wouldn't have to come back to another town meeting if they came up with another higher number and we could move on. The school is not obligated to accept the number that that I put in the warrant or the voters approved. The thought was, instead of saying zero, come back with another number, I would give them a hint on what number I thought might work. So that's how I came across that number. Their July 10th revised assessment reduced their earlier April assessment by 629,000. So they made a cut from April. It's not enough for us to get the balance, the budget to balance. So that's how I came across this number.
Is your number, is that number? No. Is a balanced budget dependent upon the things that were previous, those all being passed? Or is this just, if we just pass this, would be in Fat City?
Good question. I think it's somewhere in between.
I don't know. I don't know. We have to leave town meeting with the balanced budget.
So Andrea, if they came back with the 691, 284 number, I would propose that we still continue with the cuts that we planned. I think
Oh, yes, I was just curious if they all went together to balance it, or if the balance was just dependent on the school. That's all.
we might not have to cut as much, but at this point, I would recommend we continue with the budget and hope the school helps us out. We'll get to the last article. The last article, I'm proposing to use some stabilization to balance the budget.
Mhm.
If the school makes this number, we won't need any stabilization to balance the budget. And
And
That's
you know, that makes me happy.
I did this with your thoughts in mind, Andrea, and but believe me, I understand the finance committee's position and probably the voters. And that when I mention using stabilization, I expect to hear all the moans and groans and why we shouldn't do that. I'll save the rest of that discussion when we get to there. So anyway, I'm proposing a 691, 284 for the school.
So that line item used to be zero.
It was,
As an increase, it was
That's
zero.
what I mean.
yeah, it was increasing zero. So if we look at the FY 24 number, and it's up to see up there. We had passed at town meeting, it was 12,335,477. And so the increase in the change is going up to 13,026,761. And that's the increase of the 691.
Article 5,
Article 5 is the other schools.
that's the show vocational. This is sort of a similar situation. I'm proposing, well, actually, I'll take that back. The increase I'm using is the assessment they sent us back before town meeting. And this is based upon, it's already been approved by their member towns. So I don't think we have any room to vote no, because the other towns have already approved it.
That's a required number that's in there. So that's the increase of 334,523. I was a little surprised at the debt. It seemed to go up significantly to 38,000, but
It did, but I was looking through how it was all characterized, and I checked today with their accounting department, and these are the right numbers.
right. And again, when we look at what we were assessed in FY 24, it was 79,000. In the budget that we put together and passed in April, it was only about 38,000. And so that's why it looks like such a significant increase. It was 47,385. So that was what we had put in that March timeframe. So that's the assessment, and so that's another 38,929.
Article 6 is to actually add a line under solid waste for 25,000. This is to account for the fact that when we go to a fee collection process for the trash to offset the cost of that trash, it will in fact cost us something. It'll cost us 84.40 estimated on increased time for staff, no additional people, but additional hours.
Mhm.
It'll cost us 16,560 for invoicing software, mailing software, and that type of process. So that, the revenue that we collect from the trash fees is offset by the 25,000.
Okay, yeah, I guess.
So
that's
is
the
that
question.
payroll? Is that what that
So,
is?
It's payroll and say software. And down under the description, it breaks it out as to,
Covered expense software applications, invoicing and payment processing.
Yes.
Do you know what kind of, do you already have an idea what kind of software application
we
you're gonna
do,
buy?
and you'll hear more tomorrow when you meet with the trash collection team, but Melissa has gone through and is using Vadar that we use for our property taxes to also do the trash fees. So she's reusing or expanding the use of some of our,
Existing software.
but sometimes we have to get another module to do.
Yeah, sometimes you have to buy that extra, yeah, I get that.
I initially estimated 50,000, but after talking to Melissa and telling her, you know, she's done a lot of work and Carol, you'll hear more about it tomorrow. We'll
Okay.
need to discuss how it's gonna work.
Okay,
The purpose of tomorrow's meeting is to flesh out all the questions. What are you gonna do if someone doesn't pay? What are you gonna do if they don't want it?
Mhm.
And then when we have the questions, the answers will,
When is that meeting?
I don't know,
it's 1 o'clock tomorrow upstairs.
And this is between whom?
It's myself, Carol is a representative from the finance committee. I don't know who's representing the selectmen. It's the treasurer collector. And I think the accountant, I've asked Board of Health to do this.
Is that an open meeting? Or is that your finance team?
It's a working group under the town administrator.
Okay, so that's your finance team.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's not a public meeting.
it's not a posted public meeting, it's the financial team meeting,
Okay.
they did it.
That will be something that lots of us will want
It
to
was, yeah,
understand.
A lot of us want to understand how we're gonna do it too. When I have a proposal on how we're gonna do it, the details, I'll bring it up at the collectors meeting. So,
Okay.
but I don't think it'll be easier for us to scratch through different what ifs if we're
Mhm.
doing it as a working group.
I do have one question on it.
And again, the question I had, and it's on, we're gonna take it, roll it in, that line, roll it into the pickup, and it'll be one total bill for the 2 items.
That'll be,
Yes,
Yeah, so it won't be, because that was the question, is it gonna be, 25,000 year over year, and we're looking for,
but what's the reduction on the 25 budget if we do this?
the,
What's the net reduction on the
It's-
budget?
there's a revenue line item that we put into our recap sheet. Can I answer that?
yeah, you can.
Where I'm anticipating $550,000 in revenue from the fee structure. That's to counter the $822,000 trash contract.
832?
822 is the trash contract, which the vendor was gracious enough to extend last year's rate to this year and avoid an increase.
Okay.
I'm estimating we'll collect only 550,000 out of that. Because it will take us a while to get the system going.
Hmm.
There may be some uncollectibles. We had a very informative discussion with the Department of Revenue representative that's been working with Townsend. And she said when they close out the books at the end of this year,
Mhm.
they're gonna wanna see proof that we're gonna get that 550. So they will look at potentially the first period of collections
Mhm.
amortize it over the year and say, yeah, we think you'll hit 550 by the end of the year, or you won't.
Mhm.
I picked 550 because it's well less than the 822. If you amortize 822 over 9 months, October through June, it
Mhm.
comes out to like 618,000. So I'm just putting in a number that potentially,
Yeah, hopefully.
but it's one that I feel confident enough to put forward.
Just a follow-up question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
To that, or to this in general, have any other scenarios been discussed besides this one as an alternative to the trash pickup we have now?
It has not to this point. It's kind of, so the
Kind
answer,
of taken on a life of its
It-
own?
it's kind of like trying
Okay.
to, let's put it this, way, I have not seen any other discussions. I suspect it's,
Because there are other alternatives, and I'm just curious as to why some of those haven't been discussed by now.
When there's roughly a $900,000 shortfall, I look at the biggest ticket, which is 822 out of that. My understanding is before I arrived here, but there was a lot of discussion about Prop 2.5 to pay for the schools. The counter being, if we don't get that, there'll be some sort of a trash fee thing. So this
But
is
has
going
anybody,
through with that.
has anybody mentioned anything at all about a pay-as-you-throw like Lunenburg does? Because it doesn't require all that bookkeeping and extra
Mhm.
hours or anything like that.
Which-
I've actually thought about that, and I think the short answer to that, I really need to get moving here, is
Yeah.
it's very complicated, and I think that may be the answer for subsequent years. But the simplest thing to set up is it'll go out as part of the tax bill, and people will get billed accordingly.
Is it legal to put that on the tax bill?
unfortunately, yeah. It's been done many places, and it has been checked out with, the town council.
Okay, a question for later, for
Mhm.
whoever wants to answer it at some point in time. If there were a group of us who would like to see options for pay-as-you-throw going forward, perhaps for 26. What would be the best way for us to go about doing that? Okay, don't need to answer it now, but.
You know, I would suggest talking to the new town administrator and the Board of Health. And the new town administrator has experience with, trash collection. And he may be a good resource to get that going.
Mhm.
I think if there's a better way to do anything, the message ought to come forward.
And again, this is a 1-year contract and we have to sign a longer contract if we're gonna continue it. So I think that those conversations.
It's just a shame from my point of view, because it's like, we're gonna invest in software and training and all kinds of, extra hours, and
Mhm.
it's all gonna be new and we need it.
Right,
Um,
it's kind of,
that's kind of
There's a cost associated with, bags and stickers. But can I move on with this? or-
just real quick, Cindy.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, I just walked in and I apologize, but this is the article, that 22,000 or something.
25,000,
How much?
25,000
25,000 for the trash fee thing.
Yeah.
So you're putting an article on, or the Board of Selectmen's putting an article on, asking us to pay $25,000 to pay for the costs associated with adding an additional $200,000 to $400,000, $200 to $400 per household extra fee or sometime in the next few months.
So this, yeah,
I just don't see the taxpayers having a sense of humor.
I don't either. It's kind of like this,
That's all.
yeah, this is it's a tough situation we're getting in. Okay, so that was Article 6, Article 7, the Caterpillar lease, I think is.
Caterpillar lease, this was a number, this is $1,300, $13,200. It was a number that was mistakenly overlooked and not brought forward as a capital request, following up on a
Mhm.
previous arrangement. It should have been in the budget already. They found out that it wasn't. And this should be, I think the question last week, this should be the last year's lease payment on this Caterpillar.
Right, and then the other thing is when capital planning meets, we should make sure that nothing is gonna fall through the cracks like this on the next section. So we need to look at how they're,
We didn't go forward this.
right, yeah, it was agreed to long ago and somehow it fell off the list. It didn't make the list this year. I don't remember seeing it.
I
on the
don't see
list.
it.
So it's kind of like, so we have to make sure that things don't fall off the list.
Article 8 is returning money to the general fund, 18,750. When I went through with the help of all department heads, probably 25 articles or line items from previous town meeting articles. And these are ones that the project is complete. There's no need to have ongoing funds. And we can return 18,750 to the general fund. Okay, that will flow essentially to the bottom and reduce the deficit by that amount.
Okay,
This is something that to me should be done every year because every year you have articles that are closing out.
and the one that had been for the associated with the charter review, dropped off the list this week, is that?
Yes, because the work with the charter itself is done, but town clerk informed me that in order to put it through the general code and all the other places where it needs to be posted was gonna cost something. So I had my hand slapped for trying to take that money back.
That's good.
But that's why we go through the process and
And everybody gets the work.
yes, but I hate to see money that's been allocated and taken out of the taxpayers not made available because it's not being used. So this is,
Yeah, no, that was something we brought up in last year's budget prep that we wanted to look at, so.
Article 9.
Now, are we putting the line in with a $0 this year? Under the,
Article 9.
Article 9.
No, we're putting it, no, because this is just to give the town permission to pay
Okay,
this
so this is-
stipend.
yeah.
It's
So
not, since it's not a cost this year, because she hasn't finished the training, it will be a cost for FY 26. So it should show up as
Yeah.
either a line item or be included in her salary next year.
Hey,
This is just authorization.
I'd go line item, definitely line item, because if the next,
Like a
Treasurer.
placeholder.
this is to say, we agree to follow Mass General Law, much like we did with town clerk, and then it goes in the budget for FY 26. So it's a line that we have to make sure is added in FY 26, and we'll have the $1,000 associated with it at that point.
Article 10 is to accept an easement off across 94 Pittsburgh Street. This is to correct a drainage problem that the town had. I guess the road had actually been, I don't know if flooding is the right term, but like ponding. They opened up the drainage and took care of the ponding problem, but it turns out it's discharging on private land. Which and the developer there was gracious enough to agree that he would run the drainage pipe across his property, but we need an easement to do that. And to offset his costs a little bit, they had previously, before I got here, they negotiated, they'd pay $4,000 for that, for obtaining the easement. And that's all this does is authorize the town to accept the easement and to pay the $4,000. This is the one that would be fun. Article 11, last but not least for the night, is to balance the budget. The actual number will depend upon what flows through from the previous articles. At this point, right now, I believe the deficit is 123,265. So I'm proposing to take that number out of stabilization to balance the budget. I'm
Number
putting
again, please. 123,
123, 265.
thank you.
I'm proposing to take that out of stabilization. I am proposing we can't really bind a future town meeting, but that the town meeting they have this winter, after free cash has been certified. The plan would be to put that back as well as pay for the cruisers. I believe between the two, the stabilization replenishment and the cruisers, there will still be sort of a normal amount of free cash that towns have been working with.
What about free cash last year?
I, I'm trying to think of the numbers. It's kind of like we did
About,
about 200, we did 200,000 for snow and ice, and we had, I think it was another 276, which we then allocated in articles, and I think it was about 150,000 or
it wasn't a
125,000.
lot of money.
No, once we take snow and ice out of the 300,000.
So Don, you can pull it up. I sent you a spreadsheet with the stabilization account balances going back to 2015 and graphing of it. So it's been, I mean, it peaked in 2020. I think that's when they took out some money to pay for all the salary adjustments. And it's inching back up. So I don't think there's a trend that you say is
No, but if we,
terribly bad, but
Yeah.
if we put that money back in,
It-
then
right, the other piece is comparing this to the percentage of the annual budget that goes with it, you know, what's that percentage? It's kind of like, and that's why we were, I think it was at 8% when they did the FY 22 audit just recently, and that put us in the tier 2. For this, so it's kind of like, so I think it's critical that if we do, you know, if we do vote that we move money out, that it's moved back into. It's like everything else, it's delaying it, we're borrowing it in until we get the free cash certified.
well, I think putting it back is, I believe is feasible.
Mhm.
What is decided back then, I mean, in December, that's when the meeting is, I can't predict that.
Mhm.
And we can't, it would be improper to make condition of this vote that they voted back in December, because you can't tie the hands of a future town meeting.
Mhm.
So, but the wherewithal to do that is there.
The chair,
Yes,
if you were to sum this up, does this mean, I mean, all of this would end up balancing the budget?
this would balance the budget by reducing the line items, by taking the cruisers going to 0.
So this whole packet,
The whole packet plus the trash fees.
okay.
So it's kind of, so the
So
rent,
that means that there were no cuts made anywhere.
that's exactly it. The selectmen stated that there'd be no cuts. The general rule for this year is expenses were not increased. So they're level funded except for a few exceptions that costs did go up and were proven, but mainly in the paper and
The
the color.
salaries aren't level funded.
The salaries were not level funded, the salaries were paid based on the contract with the union.
That's my point,
Yeah.
and that's more than 2.5.
That was more than 2.5, that was a 4%.
So we're balancing the budget primarily on, well, somewhat on the school and the rest of it on stabilization and prep.
And yeah, so there's, you
Okay,
know.
from my
again,
perspective, being a business person,
Mhm.
one of the, in the town's biggest share of cost is employees.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
staff.
right.
To say that we're going to use stabilization money and hope that we have the free cash to cover it.
It,
It just doesn't, I mean, it was very loud, I think that the
I-
no override thing.
right, it was, and that's why the line for the school is the fight. Our hands are tied with Neshoba Valley.
I
It's kinda
understand that.
So we have to, that one we have to.
And I think what Ross offered to the school is it's very reasonable.
Right, and,
It's very reasonable. If that had been offered at the beginning, maybe we wouldn't have had to go through all of this. However,
Yeah.
if 60% of our budget is people and benefits, or
60%.
it might just be people,
Are you talking about the town's 40%?
the town.
Excuse me, you got anything else for me? 'Cause I need to head to another
No,
meeting.
you hit for your meeting. I think we're good. We'll get
See
it.
you tomorrow.
Yes, you'll see me tomorrow.
So 60% of our budget roughly
Is the school.
is the schools.
Right.
So of the remaining 40% is the town's salary and expense structure.
Okay, salary and expense and benefits,
And that's an
Okay.
expense, yeah.
all right, because, that's the portion, that's probably the biggest that we have.
Mhm.
And what the town is telling me is we need absolutely everything that we have now.
Right. It understood, including the trash. I mean, and when you look at the biggest line item, that's where the trash has come in. When you look at, it's closing in on $1 million.
I get you on that, and I'm all for coming out with some kind of a solution, maybe better than the one that we have for the
I-
interim.
But, yeah, I think we all have opinions on it and it's kind of like.
Yeah, and I'd like an opportunity at some point for a real discussion on that subject, period.
Right,
Because I think there's a lot of people in town that would like to be in on that discussion.
it is, it's kind of like,
It's
so,
difficult because when I honestly so much appreciate that I can talk with you and let you know what I'm thinking
Right.
and hear what you're thinking.
that's what open meeting,
Well,
It's-
it is, but that isn't always the case in the meetings that are held in town.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't ask questions at the selectmen's meeting,
okay, Yeah.
which doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Okay, so it's very frustrating when you wanna work with people and you wanna understand it, so you can explain it to your next door neighbor.
right,
When it's a one-sided discussion.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I really do appreciate
Yeah.
your,
now, it's kind of like I mean, especially when it comes to trash, it's kind of, I look at. If everybody's getting the same bill, it's kind of like, we have people that will put out 2 gallons worth of trash in a week, and then we have the other people that are gonna put out 64 gallons of trash.
it's
kinda like
just, it's ludicrous,
and-
the whole thing, I don't even wanna get into it.
No, and that's why I did some evaluations, I went online to see, and depending on the size of your container, your price goes up, so are we talking about, as we do trash, that it's gonna be size dependent? It's kind of like, are we gonna have, if somebody has a 32
Yeah.
gallon can,
I had
Or
done some,
64.
I had done some research online and found
and,
that certain towns, but one of the towns that I found from 22,
mhm,
the information, I went back, I found it just Googling,
mhm,
but when I went back to the actual town official website
Yeah.
for today, looking for the updated fees,
Yeah.
there were no fees to be posted, and I think they did away with the fees.
exactly, it's kind of like, so we're coming quickly to this with trash. Would it have been better to, and it's more difficult and it would cost more money because we'd have to have an election, but to look for an override for trash so that your trash is in with your tax bill and we don't have to have the extra software,
Well, the extra software, the extra hours,
the extra hours. It's kind of-
potentially an extra
So-
negotiation with the union that.
Right, and so
Yeah.
with this, it could be that it's a 1-year piece until we determine what's going forward.
Well, hopefully, but,
So, yeah, like I say, everybody has an opinion and that's just my opinion. I don't.
so all of our,
Trash.
all of the way that we administer everything in the town is absolutely necessary. All of the positions at the hours that they are now are absolutely necessary.
That's
That's-
debatable.
My point, okay, so
I
So-
hear a lot about positions in town, so.
No, it's kind of,
it's gonna be hard for people to swallow, taking that kind of money out of stabilization and not cutting
And-
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just, you know, it's
right,
gonna be
and,
hard.
and just for,
Were you gonna be talking, you said about ARPA position?
that's part of the bigger, we want to see the whole budget. We want to see what it is this year, what it is next year, what it is in FY 27 and beyond.
Right,
The opera funds, we took the positions and added in another $10,000 this year. But we're not even halfway to what their salaries are. It's kind of like, so that's gonna be more money that we have to get on the recurring basis.
right.
We have to talk about funding a fire chief position at half a normal fire chief salary today. It's kind of like that,
Why do we need 1.5 fire chiefs?
so we have to have, that's why the, in order to have a balanced budget, the conversation needs to be about what does it look like today and what's it gonna look like? And that's why I've been trying to push that we don't just talk about trying to balance the budget.
Yeah, you have to do that, you need to do that, look ahead.
Right, yeah, and,
Definitely.
and it's in the budget procedure or policy that it be presented, and it hasn't been presented. We have had somebody ending a term, we had an interim, we had somebody brand new, somebody that was only 1 year in, and now we're in an interim again. And so there has been a lot of firefighting for 1 year budgets at a time.
And you can't see the big picture.
And we can't see the big picture. It's kind of like, and we'll see where it goes from here, but that's,
Okay,
it's, yeah, there's a big picture to be had. It's kind of like, and we have to keep pushing for it, and we have to see it, and maybe that's, that's the piece.
well, I think that, I think that's where you guys come in, is, pushing for those kinds of things and those kinds of views and not being shy about recommending no to some things.
Right. Yep, agreed. It's kind of like, and that's,
I mean, that's what I look to you guys for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so.
Are you gonna be talking about the ARPA positions tonight?
Probably not. It's just, it should be 3 positions, but I only found 2 highlighted in the budget with notes that said they were opera funded. But my understanding is that it's 3, so I gotta go back and dig out.
There's
find
two
it.
here and one at the police station.
Police station was brought in to the budget this year,
Okay,
and the
so
fire
that's
has, so it was council on aging, I think is where.
Oh,
So,
that's
and
right.
not the shared position. It's
Yeah.
kind of like there was the outreach coordinator, HR, and the council on aging, I think, that are
Yeah.
positions that are, and again, we've been trying to bring it in, but it's gotta escalate up to full, if we can handle it.
Well, the
No,
thing
the
is
budget.
that you can make recommendations on those line items as well.
Right, and that's the piece, it's kind of like, we're also in a bylaw review committee, so we're looking at our bylaws to see if we want to see, because right now, when you read the way budgets are presented, it's a selectman's budget, and we, and we only have recommendation capability, we can't present.
Well, I think that has to do with perception,
Mm,
okay? Years ago, the finance committee in this town had so much influence. It was
Hmm.
incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing got passed at town meeting without somebody from finance talking about
Right.
yes, no, maybe, and
Yeah.
why.
right,
And the state law for finance committees is to represent us that don't go to all of the meetings that you do.
yeah,
And to truly tell us what.
Right. Yeah.
Long picture, big picture, what should we be doing? Because the selectmen aren't always gonna be right,
mm, yeah,
You're the people, you're the
Will,
safeguards
yep.
for us.
Yes. I agree.
You're our
Yep.
safeguards. If we don't have you,
Well, when we're trying to, try to reinforce,
okay, well,
let's see.
thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you.
I'm going to,
Go
go
upstairs.
upstairs, I guess.
Okay.
You do? Good evening.
Okay, so you need to head upstairs.
Oh, what?
Well, we haven't voted on recommending
Oh.
things, it's kind of like, so do we, if you need to get upstairs, then
Oh,
we won't have a quorum.
oh, I won't know. I'm fine.
Okay,
Okay. And then we're all going upstairs. Oh,
they're gonna talk about the budget, but we have to vote our recommendations, we have to have
oh, okay.
recommendations we only really sort of voted on the first.
First one. And what do we vote on the first one? Okay.
Okay.
There was 3-1.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3-1. That was just
To pay the old bill.
an old bill.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was pretty an easy one. The second one is
The second one, it starts where we have the questions.
the question. Okay, so this is where I'm a little bit confused on the $100,000.
Yep.
Deficit here. So is it to take? Okay. Is it to take the $100,000 out of their budget? Oh, their
No.
receipts?
No, okay, so
Okay.
we're gonna increase the transfer from ambulance receipts from 700,000 to 800,000. So we're taking an extra 100,000 from ambulance receipts.
So what is the total ambulance receipts?
Right now, he said it was 900,005.
Okay, so the receipts
The current balance in the receipts,
is 9,000.
900,000.
900.
Yeah.
Okay, then it became, okay.
Yeah.
So then, okay, so then he wants to take $100,000 from the receipts.
An additional, so in May, we voted to take 700 of the 900. Now, this article is saying change it to 800,000 of the 900,000.
Oh, so that's only gonna leave
It leaves,
the receipts only $100,000 in the receipts.
and maybe even a little less than that, yeah.
You know
Okay,
what we should have asked is, I think that 800,000 there include what they already have been using the receipts for. So that's like the total receipt number, not just for the one thing. You know what I mean? They have some money out for operating their budget, and I think they have one for a truck that they put money toward,
Mhm.
and some for the department. And the total usage of that would be the 8. Not voted
Not-
8 on top of all those others.
Right. So there were other special town meeting articles that allocated other funds for that. So of the 900,000, the 800,000 is to support the EMS within the operating budget. It's kind of like anything else that's coming out of there was approved on special town meeting articles.
so we'll remember the work 300,000.
Yeah, so they're increasing what we voted in May, and they want to increase it by 100,000.
Okay, so, right, so then it just leaves 100,000 left in the
Right,
receipts.
which is an ongoing, bills are constantly going
Could
up.
go up. And
Yeah,
it goes up.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, as receipts come in. But as Andrea said, there's some are uncollected, so,
Mhm,
whatever that number is, so, okay.
right, yeah, so it would be higher if all the bills were paid. It's kind of like, but, the auditors came in and saw last year that there was a lot of aging money in that account. And so that's been ongoing conversations with the chief and board of selectmen to try to minimize the amount that ages out and then has to get rid of.
Oh, okay,
So they're trying to
okay,
get better with it so that they're not, and that's the piece. If you watch your aging, you can really try to maybe put pressure on it to try to collect it sooner rather than let it get to right at the stage where it's being written off.
okay.
So we need a recommendation.
Yeah, do we,
Don't we have to go through every one of them?
we have to go through,
But shouldn't we, it would be easy to do recommendations on one at a time or just
Yeah.
all at once?
Oh,
But I think,
well,
one at a time would probably,
well, unless we're gonna, I mean, I think one at a time.
mhm,
yeah, I think one at a time is
better
the way to
do
go.
it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay, so on Article 2, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend Article 2.
One second.
Okay, so we have a motion to recommend Article 2, increasing the ambulance receipts amounts transferred to 800,000. Any further discussion? Questions? Nothing being heard? A roll call vote?
Carol Bazikis, yes.
Carol Hoff says yes.
Haywood, yes.
And Don Hayes said, sorry, no, it's kind of like, I'm gonna, I still have my concerns.
Okay, so you're gonna say no?
I'm gonna say no. I'm good.
Okay,
Well, you know, if we're doing that, and I know what you said before, but that's
Mhm.
how I feel about Article 1. As far as I know, the town cannot pay for water expenses. Water expenses have to come from the enterprise fund. And, I realize that Katie does a wonderful job, and she does, but she's a trainee, and perhaps they should have talked to the firm we hired to be our accountant.
Yeah.
And second, he said, oh, it was only $600,000, or $600, I didn't want to bother to run it down. Don't like that attitude at all.
No, but do they pay it out of the water enterprise fund or isn't that part of our responsibility that we pay as the town and that's why they transfer the
No,
money?
no,
That's- okay, so
the
that's all set.
enterprise fund is made up from water receipts.
Right,
And they come in and it has to be voted out at a town meeting for them to use. But they
So
can
it's-
vote it out as easily at this STM as anywhere else.
Should we go back and revote that?
well, I thought because this was a prior year bill and we had already done the transfer at town meeting to support them. It's just a matter of what so we voted it 3-1, maybe it needs that validation of,
which funds it's gonna come out of?
well, if it's, yeah, does it, get come out of water, or is that part of our support and the some money they've already transferred to us at prior town meetings? So that I'm not sure. It's kind of like, but Andrea, you think that all bills associated with the water department, like get anything they use, if they buy tools, and things I thought it was all part of the amount that was transferred in, and that was done with the purchasing here, and we purchased it. But if they're purchasing their own and paying the bills out of the enterprise fund,
Right.
then
The
then
whole
it sounds-
department runs everything, their salaries, everything comes out of the enterprise fund. Except for, this may be where you got confused. We pay for their insurance
Right,
and we pay for some other things. But then they have an amount that they have to pay yearly to pay us back
mhm,
for those services.
Should we go back
Yeah.
to one and
we can certainly go back to one.
You wanna go back to one and not recommend?
not recommend it? I'm like.
We make a motion to reconsider.
I make a motion to reconsider number one.
Thank you.
And I'll second it.
Okay, so then,
We vote to,
yeah, so we're back on Article 1. We need to vote to reopen and reconsider Article 1. So we had the motion and the second.
so are we voting to reopen
We-
and then are we taking two votes?
We're gonna take two votes.
Okay.
One, first is to reconsider it,
Okay,
and then,
I'll make a motion to reconsider, Gerald Mazekas.
Carol Hofstas second.
okay, sorry, I thought
Yeah, we did that.
yeah,
So,
Okay.
So-
now
so
we
now
can-
we gotta vote on it.
yeah, now we'll vote to.
All right,
Okay.
reconsider, so.
Well, bye. Thank you, love.
No, this is the reconsider.
This is the reconsider,
This is
okay.
voting to reconsider it. So a yes, vote we'll
Okay.
reconsider and.
Okay, yes, we will reconsider Gerald Mazekas.
Okay, Carol Hofstas, yes.
Andrew Wood, yes.
Don Hayes, yes, we will reconsider.
Okay. Now you wanna what? A motion to reopen it?
Do we want? I hate to, well, we have a meeting next week.
We have to vote on this again.
We have to vote on this again, but we have more questions before we vote. We want to know. the
Doesn't he
process.
have to have like something to post tomorrow?
He has to post it, but he wants our recommendation, but again, we have more questions, so we can't,
Okay.
it's kind of like, so I'm thinking we need to see if. we
Oh, I
can vote.
thought he needed our recommendation
He-
before
he
he.
would
Like it, like it.
He would like
But
our
he can post
recommendation.
it.
He can post it without,
Oh, okay,
yeah, so,
okay.
and we have a meeting next week, so
Okay.
if
What day?
not, you're not coming,
I won't be there.
you won't be
Well,
there.
you notice on the warrant, he has our recommendation, but in the past, we always put in our recommendations on a
On
separate
a-
sheet. Going
right.
back to that system shouldn't be hard.
Right, yep, no, it's not hard, and I'm trying to work on it as we speak here, so. So right now, we have a question to see if this bill should be paid by water enterprise fund or Townsend General Fund.
Sure. Okay.
So,
Okay.
and then we can take it next week and vote it. It's gonna,
Okay. All right.
because we won't have it in time for them tonight,
Okay.
or. Okay, so we're looking to get, so we have voted on Article 2.
Yeah. Okay, when we got it three.
Okay, Article 3. So I'm just gonna share my computer with you, Carol, for now.
Okay.
What I've been doing is I captured the articles, just a real brief description, what the amount of the article is, the date, and then the vote,
Okay.
and then try to capture any questions, so I can, you can capture the motions, I'll get
Okay.
these kinds of details to you. And so-
Or also
If that's-
send you my things, and
Yeah,
you can
and-
fill in the thing.
And then we'll create the recommendation sheet.
Create the
Oh, okay, all right.
Fill in the blanks for two.
On Article 3, I
Yeah.
guess I'm just concerned about kicking that $95,000 down to December.
Mhm. Yep.
I'm like, you know, that it's,
If you separate this and make it two articles, A, B,
well,
and
we
C.
have A through C, I guess is okay.
Right, yep, yep.
But it's number D. If we took
Mhm.
D out, I wouldn't have a problem with Article
So
3.
our recommendation to them will be to change the article because three are permanently coming down
Mhm.
and one is this. And I know.
I'm not 100% sure on C,
Mhm.
that communications, I mean, he was blabbing, sorry, I'm just saying.
Okay, yeah,
blabbing.
no, it's
But-
kind of like, it's technology words you haven't heard.
Yeah, and it's, and I know I'm technology challenged.
That's okay. It's
But,
kinda like-
but he kept saying, talking about the,
We can punch it back.
it's like, well, do you really know that this fiber optic cable's really gonna reduce?
Well,
Oh, but
And
you
the-
have a technology background, so
Right,
yes,
and-
you would know better than
right,
me.
and so the answer is gonna be yes.
Okay,
What, in the old structure, you had, it's like your home. You
okay,
had a cable coming in.
Yep.
And you had a cable box, so that,
Yep.
and, or a modem, so you could get the internet in the house.
Mm.
And that's what we had at every building
okay,
in here. And that had to run into what they call a firewall, which is a PC that's
Yeah,
running to share it out.
Yeah.
It's kind of, so now, by doing this fiber connection, you don't have to have a modem and a firewall in every location. It's all done centrally. And so now you don't have
okay,
all of those separate
okay,
invoices and
Yeah.
support for.
okay,
all that
okay,
other-
so then you do have the savings.
We do have a savings.
Okay.
It's kind of
Alright.
like, so it made sense to me and. I'm
Yeah,
hoping-
no, yep, no, that makes sense, now that you explained it that way, I get
Yeah.
that. I do get that, but
Yeah,
okay,
and, yeah, so not having that background and,
okay, so. I'm good with A, B, and C, if
Mhm.
it's D, I just. To me,
Yep.
that's a bill that needs to be paid, and you kicking the can down the street
And
is.
just one bucket to the other.
Well, yeah, because what's gonna happen? They kick this down the street, they don't
Mhm.
get the revenue receipts or whatever.
yeah.
And then, and they still have to pay this bill.
And
We-
does
we
it
have to
delay,
then
does
order.
it delay, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and
Right.
delaying is not good.
Right, and again, my question is, okay, so you have the leases. Usually when you hold on to a piece of equipment after the lease, you still have to pay something.
Well, yes, you still have to pay
So
the
we have-
lease, I mean, as long as they're leasing, they still have to pay something towards the lease for their,
Right, and
oh, they gotta give the car back.
it's kind of like, and we can't give 3 cars back on the car lease to.
4
Yeah.
cars.
Four, yeah,
Cars,
4
whatever,
cars,
yeah.
yeah. It's kind of like, so. I guess. We're looking at this and saying it should be 2. It should be broken into 2. They only did 1 article. And
Mhm.
it's kind of like, we would recommend 2 articles
articles,
to be voted independently. Because if we don't, we're not, from what I'm hearing, we think we would recommend A, B, and C. But D, we have more heartburn with.
Yeah, and I don't like the word reduce
Mhm,
for the 9, because we're not really reducing it, we're delaying it.
Delaying it, yeah.
right,
Because to me, when you look at reducing, it looks like you
Giveaway.
got a $95,000 savings, and that's not really true.
it,
It's still a bill that has to be paid.
it's gonna, yeah, because the equipment that is being purchased on that lease has to be bought for the police to become efficient. It's kind of like, and to be able to do it. So yes, it's kind of like, and that's the piece. It's kind of like, this gets into the balancing a budget and presenting a balanced budget. We don't think this item should be totally released. If you're gonna kick it down the can and it's gonna be 6, it should be reduced from 95 to 47.5 for this year, to go up to 95,000 next year. That's what we see. Andrea, does that make sense? That this should actually, if we're delaying, it should actually remain in the budget. But if it's gonna be delayed for 6 months, it should just be half the value on the line.
I had never thought about it that way, but yes, I agree.
Why would we have to that?
Because they said still gonna do the lease, but they're gonna do it in December.
Yeah,
And so you have half a year, January through June, in FY
Oh,
'26.
Okay, yeah, okay, because of fiscal year start
Yep,
July.
yep.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
All right, I
But
understand
that
that.
doesn't delay,
That's good.
that doesn't take the 95 away.
It doesn't take the 95, but it reduces it by 50% because we didn't start the lease at in July, this year,
Oh,
July of.
Yeah, so you're only halfway into the fiscal year's halfway over, or whatever, you're
And
halfway
that's,
in. Yeah.
right, and he's the what's trying to happen, and again, it's kind of like, that's probably the way to go, so I kind of like.
So do we want to make a motion to recommend separating Article 3 into 2 articles?
I think so, I think, and we, on the second article, we recommend that it be reduced by half. Because again, you're taking it out just to add it back in. It's kind of like, and what happens if the town doesn't vote it back in December? You say, let's use the past couple of years. We couldn't get a quorum for special town meeting in the fall.
Mhm.
If you don't do special town meeting and vote the lease, how is the police gonna get the lease in the second half of the year?
And there've been a number of years when we've not been able to handle that, fall town meeting because people didn't attend. I can
Right.
think of twice, once quite recent.
Yeah, so I, yeah, so I don't think, we don't recommend Article 3 as is, we recommend rewriting it and breaking it into 2 articles. And then the second article should be the cruiser standalone, and it should list it as 47.5. And that changes his whole, unless he just throws it on the end,
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, you could always add it at the end,
and as Article 12.
or just before the stabilization one, and just remember the last two.
Yeah,
So Louise,
okay, do we,
what do we want to do with
I
this?
guess, do we want a motion to not recommend Article 3 as written and then make the recommendation to town administrator to make it 2 lines?
I'll make a motion to make Article 3 into 2 separate lines. First one containing A, B, and C, the second half, B.
Okay. We,
Down, and on D to 47,000,
I find that,
47,500.
47,500.
and I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion to recommend a change to Article 3, changing A, B, and C to standalone or A, B, and C still moved and moving D to a separate article. Any further questions on that? And we'll vote them as if we're doing an extra article, so.
Okay.
So we'll start with voting that we're gonna recommend breaking it into 2. So we've had the motion, we've had the second, so a yes vote now will have us make that recommendation to him to make the change.
Jerome Bezikas, yes.
Carol Hofstas, yes.
Andrea Wood, yes.
Don Hayes, yes. Yeah, I'm just gonna.
Carol? Do you
Yes.
realize you're recording all these votes for the minutes?
Motions, yeah.
I'm trying to.
Oh, no, no, you just, take the piece of paper that they're on
Yeah, I am.
from that vote, yes or no. But no, I just didn't know, I wasn't sure if you knew that was a requirement for minutes. That's all,
Oh, yeah,
sorry.
that's okay. It's no problem.
Okay, so
We'll see if I'm accurate in capturing everything.
Oh,
So-
nobody will remember anyway.
And, and again, by making this recommendation and the change. Okay. Okay. Now let's. Okay, so, sorry, let's make a change. Police new equipment, reducing this line to 0. Is that, oh, it's just all the questions we have. So here we're saying. New equipment, reduce. And our reasoning is it eliminates the need. Flash window. And which has failed to meet. Give a little backup as to what we're trying to do that. Okay. Okay, sorry, I'm kind of, that was Article 3.
3.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the big one.
The big one, the North Middlesex assessment.
You know, I understand, or I understood what he said
Yeah,
and what I read in the article. But I don't like it when we go to town meeting with these sort of tricky articles. I don't think it's fair to the public.
right, it's kind of like it needs to. Sorry, I'm flipping to the article for the assessment. I just wanted to read what the description was, fine. Yeah, so he's not saying, there's only a partial description on here. Talks about line 500, amount voted at May ATM wins the same number as FY24. So we level funded. This was not the school's budget request as submitted on April 30th. The new amount represents a decrease from the April resend. However, this amount is higher than the May annual as reported. This is
also isn't the amount that they recommended.
right, and this is, yeah, this is lower. It's kind of like his whole, the description we had was, this was lower, so the description needs to state more than it does. It needs to include, this is lower than the school's latest July 10th assessment. And if we vote this amount, it's still not approving the school budget as fully funded. It's kind of.
John, can you make that a little bit bigger?
I can. Too big. Do you want just the amounts? You know, looking to see the numbers or? Okay, so this is the recommendation sheet with the increase.
Okay.
Are you looking for the whole budget?
So what is the, difference between the number they wanted and this one here? What is the amount of difference?
Let's see. Let's see if we can find it. Things are- It was June. Balance and assessment. Okay, so that should be opened. And things everywhere. Okay, so the debt assessment, we can pull out. So let me try to pull that again too. So I'll have to do the math,
Okay.
which we can do, because the amount that they want is the operating assessment plus the transportation assessment.
Okay.
We want those two numbers
Mhm.
added together. The debt assessment is separate, a separate line item. And I can't copy, so 1170.
What's a debt assessment?
That's like the building, the paying for the school building that we had built.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I can remember. Page 782.55. 244,706. 244,706. I had it backwards.
244,000?
No, I did. I reversed the numbers, so equals. Okay, I'll pull it up again. Where? And then you can check, we'll check the math. Okay.
Can you see that?
Okay, no.
No, I can't.
Yeah, sorry, it's kind of like going from one to the other. So the first one is the assessment, 11,782,055.
Okay.
And so if I go to their letter, 11,782,055.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's kind of like it didn't stay bold enough.
Okay.
So then the transportation assessment, 244,706.
Mhm.
244,706. So the total that they were looking for is 1,300,000. No, 13,000,000. 26,761.
Yeah,
So
but he's
where,
got here.
where do they show that?
Yeah, that's what he's showing on the
Okay,
article.
yeah.
That's what he shows here. Now
Okay.
that bus transportation line, that's the money that they talk about that the state has refused to come up with the money.
And they actually, it looks like they lowered it again, the percentage they lowered this year. It's kind of,
What, the transportation they lowered?
I think, yeah,
I
heard
that they lowered.
The state lowered it?
the state lowered their reimbursement for transportation.
Oh,
this year.
I heard that they lowered their money to all the regional schools too.
They've done lots of different things. If you haven't seen it, let's go.
But what was the answer to the question?
So the question you had asked,
What was the shortfall?
you were wondering what the number was
Right,
that was on. So looking at this and looking at what they had sent in the letter,
mhm,
it looks like this is matching it because the number in the letter said they wanted 13,026,761. And if we look at the omnibus that they put together, they're looking for 3,026,761. With that exempt.
you're looking for what?
13,026,761.
That's what they're short? No,
No,
Oh,
no,
that's
no.
why we had to come up with the six,
That's why we have to come
come
up
up
with
with the 691
the 691.
to 84.
oh, okay,
To meet-
all right, to meet the.
To meet that, that's what Article 4
Okay,
is saying.
right, Okay,
In order to come up
Yep.
with that 13 million, we've gotta come up with 691 more bucks.
okay. So the 691. Is that just for Townsend or is that the three towns?
That's just Townsend. That's just Townsend's assessment.
Yeah, just our assessment.
And what happens if that gets voted no?
If that gets voted no, then we don't change that amount in the budget. It could get recommended on town floor that they change the amount on that line. Kind of to something lower, it's kind of like, which is what happened on what must have been town meeting in May. Somebody made a recommendation to change the number, but it didn't pass on the floor. But yeah, so it's kind of like this is a list of the warrant. And this is what we get the day, on the floor is actually the motion, called the motion, and what's on the warrant is generally the gist of it. When you get the actual motion, it may have something a little different than what's in the warrant. Generally, they try to stick to it the best they can, like the last one where they're estimating a number and everything may have to go. That's why that number may be different in the end. It's kind of like on the
So,
stabilization.
Now, does the town give you the total revenue receipts?
We have to ask for them. It's not something that's been supplied in the past, but it should be available to us. It was in one of the documents Ross had provided earlier, so we can see some of them.
Do you get like the total receipts from the town, so you know what all the expenditures are and where the shortfalls are?
We haven't seen it, but we should. You know, it's kind of like,
Because how else, if you don't know what the total receipts are and they're. Not that they would ever do this, but but they fudge things, that they
Right,
shouldn't
right.
fudge things.
and that's why the comment, sounds like they were talking to Bobby Joe, about, the validating of the number. We have to show proof that we're gonna get that 500. He talked about 550,000 for the trash pickup.
Oh, yeah, he
So-
was talking about that. Why,
Mhm.
I still don't get that. If the trash is 800 something thousand, why are they only looking to get 550? Wouldn't they wanna be getting
Because-
covered the whole 800,000?
Because then you would have to have a larger bill when we start implementing this, if it's, say, October. It's only 3/4 of a year, so it's 3/4 of the 832.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna,
So, yeah, okay, I get that.
the town's gonna pay the other.
Okay, I get it.
So. So that's the piece of that one, it's kind of like he's saying, we didn't start it in July, so we're not gonna get the whole amount. And so that's why the team tomorrow is gonna start talking about it, there's gonna be a deadline of when they want to start collecting, having it in place and start collecting. So-
Yeah, I have no faith.
So,
October first is gonna be achievable.
No, but and that may be why I think he did even December to get 7 twelfths of
Okay,
of that
okay.
number.
Don,
Yes,
I understand what you just said, but
yeah,
the money from, say, the beginning of the fiscal year until October 1st, that would come from the money that we voted at town meeting for trash pickup that we don't have?
well, we would have it, and that's, I started to understand a little better when he spoke about that. So it sounds as though and the little bits of the money, the 100,000, the extra 100,000 from the ambulance,
Fund.
and
Yeah,
then the $95,000 that were
From the police.
from the police cruisers. If we're only expecting, say, 550 out of the 800 this year for trash, next year, those two numbers are gonna get replaced by the full year's worth of trash pickup.
Okay.
okay,
So-
well, I have a question now then.
Yeah,
Where is, they picked up my trash Thursday.
mhm.
Where did that money come from?
It will have come from the tax receipts from, the August 1st tax receipts.
Okay,
So I mean, you could think of it working on a 3-month budget. When we start the year, we can start paying the bills and we get our first quarter tax bills and we pay that in August. And so now there's a bucket of money in there to start paying the first parts of the budget.
Well, do you know, well, cause I've done some, when I was doing trash research and stuff, but. Even going through some of the other town websites, do we ever take advantage of like paying bills early to get like a discount? You know, sometimes, you know, if you pay it.
Earlier in full.
Early, you get a.
Right, pay, instead of
30
being,
days, it's like you do it in, I don't know, 10, 15 days, they give you a 2 or 3 or 4% discount.
right, there's those, and then sometimes billing monthly versus quarterly versus semi-annually, you can get a discount by paying a bigger.
the only one that I know that we do that on is that, I think it's workman's comp. We get, so much. It's one price if you respond immediately,
Mhm.
and it's a little bit more, well, quite a lot more considering every dollar counts. If you pay on the date it's really due.
Well, sometimes
That's
you
the
get.
bill that comes to the treasurer.
Right,
Okay.
yeah, there have been different discounts depending, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, I've been on the billing side, because more frequently, if you're generating more bills more frequently, you're handling the money.
Yeah, just like if I pay my car insurance, if I pay it all up
Mhm.
front,
Right,
I
you don't
get-
get a monthly bill.
and I get a discount.
Yeah.
For paying it all
Yeah.
up front, or
Mhm.
if you pay it twice a year versus monthly, you get a little bit less, you know,
Yeah.
there's all those little
yeah,
discounts.
yeah.
that pay more.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so what are we gonna do with Article 4 now? We recommending it, or what are we doing with it? Are we skipping?
Well, he said that this number did not match what they had requested in July.
But this 13, but the 132676 was in the letter, so.
Right, yeah, so it looks like they are paying it. It's kind of like, so we still have a question
Okay.
on that.
On
It's
that,
kind of like, because, let me do the math.
okay,
Hang on, let's check.
I'd like to ask a question. Can
Yeah.
you hear mumbling in your background?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's in another room.
Another
I
room.
think it's picking up the selectmen's meeting, yeah.
Ooh. Oh,
Oh, it is, it's the
It's-
monitor.
yeah, it's the monitor next door in the IT room.
Oh, okay, because it's not loud enough for
Mhm.
you not to hear, but I was curious on why it was doing that. That's all, thank you.
Yeah, I gotta get the right number in here. Actually, yeah. Okay. So. Okay, so I just did the percentage, so the increase of the 691 is a 5.6 increase over last year's school budget.
Okay, cause he said a 6% increase over,
Yeah.
you know, maybe he just rounded up.
I think he did.
Yeah, if I take the decimal points down, it'll round up to 6,
Okay.
or the other way. 6. Yep. Okay, but still, it looks like if we approve that amount, it is approving the school budget as assessed in July.
And he said the school may not accept it.
So,
If the school doesn't accept it, then what
Right.
happens?
They go to 112, but yeah.
they're still on the 112 budget.
Budget.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to go back for another increase to the town and say, we want.
It may get to the point that the state comes in and assigns the
What it's
value.
gonna do.
Yeah, and tells you how much
They're gonna
the
tell
school
you how
budget's
much
gonna
you're
be.
To pay.
Yeah.
Could be bad or good, depending. Could be bad. Yeah, it could be bad, especially if they're not funding the regional school like they
Right.
did.
Yeah, but again, we're, according to their formulas, it's kind of like Townsend is above the formula for how much per student.
For what?
We're above the formula, so they have a formula that says you should spend this much money on a student,
Okay,
and we're above that amount at in the North Middlesex district,
The high school level?
all of it. Kind of, so they don't break it out, they haven't broken it out, it's kind of like, and I don't know if,
So you can't touch
That's right.
elementary, programs, elementary programs stay the same. You can't cut elementary.
Mhm. Right.
so if they have a formula that says you should be spending so much per student and we're spending more,
Right, where are the differences?
what's the difference?
Where is it coming from?
What's the difference? What are they spending money on that we shouldn't be spending? money?
Well, and again, it is kind of. I don't know the formulas. We would have to run and have a side-by-side comparison of what the chapter 70 money and formula is and how it compares to how North Middlesex is spending it. I don't know if they have calculations for how many are special needs and need
Oh,
one-on-one.
it could be.
It's kind of like,
But I thought the state mandated what you had to spend on special needs, so.
they mandate the
They probably do.
the manpower. They mandate the manpower. They don't necessarily mandate the price. It's kind of like, so,
Well, cause I know, I think my daughter's on the middle school PTO.
Mhm.
Cause I asked her what a paraprofessional was, cause he was talking about all these
Mhm.
paraprofessionals. And she said, oh, those are the ones that help the special needs, and I have a daughter, my other daughter was special needs. And she goes, Mom, I never had anybody, I mean, she says, I never had anybody that was like assigned to me to help me with anything.
I do know that there are kids that do have, one person assigned.
Mhm.
There
Right.
are- There are some.
and that becomes, and then English as a second language requirements, what's the
Yeah,
formula
it's,
that they have? And how many are there? It's kind of like, so we may end up finding that the formula the state uses is one to come up with the number,
Right.
but it doesn't really
Fit ours.
Fit
fit our
the,
school system.
the profile.
Right, yeah, it's kind of like, and that's the piece, that's a piece that we have to understand. Margaret Scarsdale did have the gathering of, Desi and all this, the school system, board of selectmen and finance committee. So she said she's gonna have another session trying to work all this out. But those are the questions that I started to come out with after this meeting is,
Okay,
how do we sit down one-on-one with Desi and see their formulas versus North Middlesex? And then is it something that they have to go back and I totally understand it. It was like a 6-year program in the state to get us where we're going. It's kind of like, and this is probably the third version of this 6, and we're only 3 years into it. So to try to get them to change a program that's 50% in could be difficult, but they need to also understand that how difficult it is on the towns. I mean, if practically every town in the area was trying to do 2.5s to make school budgets this year.
Well, I think part of our problem is we never stick to the 2.5.
Mhm.
And I
Right.
think, because this coming year, it should
Mm,
make them, you know,
well, that's,
realize that we don't have the money
right,
to spend.
and that's the piece, it's kind of like, if we do this amount now, what's next year's budget?
well, plus I know it when
And if
well,
that's
on
not
the
fair.
first override for the school, when the superintendent got up, because I was sitting there
Mhm.
and he gave his little spiel about, you know, how much money he needs. And I'm thinking, but I said, I don't think people are listening to him because this is not the end of it, because he's basically said he's coming back next year looking for more.
Yeah, let's get this shit, yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
you gotta stop. At some
Yeah.
point,
Right.
you gotta stop.
And the conversation that I heard, and I got to validate, was that they were trying to work where schools were gonna be 55% of the town's budget. It's kind of like,
Well,
but that would be
That
an
would be
improvement for
nice.
us.
Well,
That would be
yeah,
nice.
no,
It's
I
kinda
know,
nice.
that's why I'm laughing, because
Yeah.
it's more than 55%.
We're more than 55%, we're closing
I
in
mean,
on 60,
We're
and
at
they want
60.
more, yeah.
We're
We're real close. It's gonna. it's
55% would be a cut.
And then we would have more money for.
Police cruises,
Exactly, you know, so it's kind of like, so
okay, so.
we want to recommend
Some of
47,000.
those officers that were hired for opera money,
See, they
so
shouldn't,
they shouldn't,
I know, but because.
it's not to single them out, there's other.
No, no,
positions.
I'm just saying all opera positions. Because if, when you hire and you have no, if they had a plan,
Mhm.
Do they have a contract? I mean, what's a contract end? Isn't it over?
For opera,
Yeah.
they weren't hired by contract, they were hired as employees into the town, and
but
the opera money funded them.
but just because you have opera money, doesn't mean you go hire all these people without having a
Or
plan
a source of pay them?
to pay them once the opera funds, because it's not just. I mean, now you've got benefits, so you've
Well, of
got,
course.
it, you know.
And equipment, and
Computers.
computers, it's kinda,
I mean, everything that comes into play, so you can't,
Sure.
when you don't have a lot of money
Mhm.
to begin with, and you're pushing to pay the bills, then you shouldn't be hiring people with opera funds.
Mhm.
That you,
Right.
because,
Particularly, you shouldn't be hiring people you couldn't afford without ARPA funds.
absolutely,
and,
right,
right,
Yeah.
which,
yeah, you're right, it shouldn't. That was the other way, different way to try to say, if you couldn't afford,
if you can't afford them
you should have
without
hired,
it, you
yeah.
shouldn't have hired them.
And,
Right.
and remember, we have those two major positions, but we also have some personnel that went to the fire department
Mhm.
and a certain amount of officers that went to the police department. That's why I wondered about the fourth car. If it was because they had increased their population of officers,
Mhm.
uh,
Or they're fully,
required another car for, you know.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
right, because the other part of it was, that, um, sorry, it's kind of, they, for a lot of years, they weren't fully staffed. And now they were fully staffed. Maybe there's one position open again. Kind of like, although I
Well,
think
you
I
know,
just,
one thing they never negotiate on the police department. When I was a selectman, we argued this in negotiations a number of times. They're on a 4-on, 3-off
yeah,
schedule, which is the most expensive way to do it. It's very good for the police officer
Mhm.
is such, because then every year a different officer gets, has to work on Christmas or Thanksgiving or whatever. It doesn't always fall to the same person. But whether we can afford this schedule anymore, to me, it's
Mhm.
becoming a real question.
right.
Could that ARPA money have gone all towards roads? Could it,
Yeah.
could it all gone towards roads?
It should have gone
To infrastructure.
because it was over so many years. I
Mhm.
think the selectmen didn't think of it as one-time money. But in reality, it's still one-time monies, and it should have gone to one-time purchases, like all free cash should.
Actually, I went on site to read up on it. It's, the only thing it said, you could use it to hire emergency personnel.
Emergency.
Mhm.
But it was mostly for like construction jobs, road repairs, bridge
Right.
repairs.
So when
It
the
wasn't-
job is done, it was
it-
done.
So
With-
it wasn't like a higher town,
Right.
council on aging people, because that's not an emergency position, but
But it was at the time, they had more demand. There was, with
yeah.
more
But-
people handling it. It's kind of like
But
they-
anyways, I'm with Andrea, you shouldn't have hired people if you couldn't afford them in the first place,
right, so now,
but anyways, we're.
okay, yep, we're slow on it, but
Yeah,
on Article 4, I'm thinking it's additional question because the 691 seems to match what they had, so we don't understand the statement.
okay. Oh, well, not what the school wants, represented the, but
Right,
not
yeah,
what the
it's
school
kind of
wants.
like, it's not
But
less
that,
than, yeah, it's
yeah,
not
but
less
that
than.
1326 was in that letter that you showed,
Right.
so.
So we don't
Yeah.
understand the statement that we
Correct.
received earlier.
Yeah,
Um,
okay,
So your questions on there?
Yeah.
Okay.
it's down.
Hmm.
Can't type anyway. Should,
Well, number 5, it's just kind of,
oh, that's a no-brainer, because that one,
that's it.
that's it, so we can make a motion for that,
I'll make a motion that we pass Article 5.
and I'll second it. This vote.
sorry, we're being stoned. I'm thinking of access. Sorry, okay, so I heard that we had a motion to approve Article 5, which is both North, Neshoba Valley Technical High School lines.
And I seconded it,
Yep, and we had a second,
so.
any other questions on Article 5? As you said, it really makes no. We have to pay it, so, if there's nothing further, a roll call vote, a yes vote is going to, that we recommend Article 5.
I recommend Article 5. Geraldine Bezikas, yes.
Carol Hofstas, yes.
Andrea Wood, yes.
Don Hayes, yes.
This next one, I don't get.
Oh,
Yeah. I'd have to-
Okay, yep, more discussion.
But is it up to us to discuss it at this point, or is it up to him? Because we don't have the answer to, we're supposed to be
I'm
getting.
not even sure why they have this on here when they don't even have a process for collecting the fee.
Well, that's why I said it should come under payroll.
Because, I mean, why are we putting this article about trash? Because right now, nobody even, not nobody, but a lot of people don't know that there's gonna be a fee that.
Right.
So to put this up there, I could just see a town meeting.
Yeah.
It's gonna like,
It-
we'll be, we'll be there,
Explode,
we'll be there till like midnight talking about trash.
Right, yeah,
Now, when they say bag pickup or,
Well,
how does that work?
well, all I know is years, I'm talking like 30
Yeah.
years ago, when I lived in Chelmsford, they went to a fee. Like, you know,
Per bag.
and what you had to do, you had to go down and buy, at that time, because this is like the 70s,
Right.
80s. It was $1 a bag.
Mhm.
You could still have your trash can,
Mhm.
but you had to have
Had it in
this
the bag.
It had to be in the bag. And you know how long that lasted? It lasted maybe a year, maybe a year and a half, and they went back to paying for trash again.
Yeah, that would cost my household a fortune,
mhm,
You know?
because I know they're not $1 a bag anymore.
right.
Well, no, but the other thing is, you know, I don't even know why, because it might not, it might be more, it might be less, because
I don't think we should.
I don't even think it should be there until they figure out the process, because it's gonna be if it could become an accounting nightmare.
Mhm.
How do you tell Shaw's or who, I guess it's gonna be Shaw's,
Mhm.
how do you tell Shaw's which house not
Yeah,
to pick
pick
up?
up theirs, but don't pick up theirs.
Right,
maybe.
yeah.
I mean,
Really?
Right, this one didn't sign up for the program, don't pick up.
and
It's kinda like-
then now you put it, so you put it on your property tax bill, which is
Mhm.
fine, I'd rather have it on there, it goes into my, tax deduction. And it'll probably be, because I paid the CPA tax in Westford, it was always a separate line on my
Mhm.
thing.
Right.
But so you have a trash line, and it's, I don't know, $40 say $200 a quarter, or whatever it is. So now, I'm pissed, I'm not gonna pay for your trash.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna pay my property tax portion, but I'm not gonna send you the money
But how, yeah,
for the $200. So now what do you do?
right.
Are you
And how
gonna,
do you make sure that it's not, that part you're not paying doesn't get applied and
Oh.
you then,
yeah, I see what you're
that
saying, so.
you're not
so-
applying it to the real estate tax, it's kind of like,
So it's that somebody doesn't make an accounting error, and so I don't pay the $200, I pay the 1,000 for my taxes.
mhm,
But then somebody
Somebody
screws
posts it,
up
yeah.
and posts it as 800 for my taxes and 200.
and now
you
you-
know, you down,
delinquent
delinquent on my taxes.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like it can be a freaking nightmare.
and there's,
And like my daughter, I shouldn't say where she lives, but she lives in Powell. And her husband's a general contractor. She goes, I'm not paying any fucking fee. She says, Chris will pay the trash too. He's got dumpsters all over Sudbury because he does a lot of remodeling in Sudbury. She said, he's got dumpsters everywhere. She says, I'll just load up his truck in the bottom, you'll let him.
Track it around, right?
Truck it around, dump it in the dumpster.
you know, there's,
Yeah, I don't think we should go.
This-
I don't think it's. I don't
But-
think we can.
I think it's premature until they figure out a process of how they want to do this. Because until they figure out the process, they don't really know what this
but
is.
in order to try it out, they have to spend some money to turn on the option
Well,
of VEDAR, so it's kind of like,
Yeah, So-
so it,
yeah, I guess, no, you're right there, you are right to do it, they do have to spend some money, but,
right, and how do you spend a piece of money, it's kind of like,
okay.
and, you know,
Yeah.
can do it with an evaluation software and try it out, but you're right, it's kind of like, until they have a process, but in this case,
And this is town meetings on the 20th.
town meeting is on the 20th.
So this article will just be hours, I can
Mhm.
see just.
Days.
Oh, when the school was, we didn't get out of there till midnight, one of those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. it's, Okay, I guess, no, you're right, do they have to have some money?
They have to have some money and it's kind of like, so this is a new one,
Okay.
new line
so-
to do it, but again, the questions are gonna come up we're gonna vote it. I would rather see the plan. I mean, much to, Sue Vicio's comment. We're now spending money to try to figure out something that we're trying to fix a problem that
Was it broken
It was-
until,
it's not broken until,
like a broken?
right,
Till you break it.
kind of like, because we haven't, so there's still that $800,000 line in there, but they're gonna start billing.
So a lot of
Trash,
money for
kinda like-
invoicing, mailing and software, I don't know, whatever. But,
Well, yeah, so,
but whatever, so do we just recommend they put it in there? And I guess we gotta, I mean,
well,
or what are we gonna do with this? Like you said, they do need to have some money to do something.
right, they trial and error and come up with a plan. It's kind of like, so this more than anything funds the ability to test things out and see.
You know,
And it gives the ability to bring it into the room and have a demonstration of what it is, how it's gonna work. So when the team gets together, they can take a look at it.
okay, so we're gonna recommend this article.
I don't think people wanna, I don't think people wanna spend money for trash, so I think this is gonna be their big way. If we don't fund the software, they can't go for trash, and they can. It's kinda like you just have to do it on in spreadsheets and Word documents. It's kinda like, so we can make a motion to recommend it, and we vote as we go. It's kinda like,
I mean, you throw it out there, they do need some money to do something
mhm.
to manage this
Right.
program, whatever this program is. I mean, it probably will get voted down.
Well, I don't understand how they came up with money to fund this program when they don't have the program yet. They don't even
Well,
have the committee
well-
formed yet.
No, I know, that's the thing, but
Right, but you're not gonna have a special town meeting after you've had a month to work out how you're gonna implement the program.
Okay, so we raise this 25,000 and the selectmen appoint themselves and some of their friends. And we
Mhm.
have a qualified committee to pay $25,000 to? No.
No, I mean, they're very specific that they're gonna use it to evaluate software, but the rest of it would be in there.
They
Maybe
do, but they've never, do you realize in the last 3 years or so,
Mhm.
the number of personnel that we have hired that have not been qualified for the jobs they were hired for?
well,
Yeah,
Including our new town administrator.
right,
yeah,
yes,
So you're placing a lot of golden hopes on they will do this right. And I've run out of golden hopes.
oh, no, I
Right.
don't have any hopes that this will be done right.
right, no, but does it? We recommend the 16,560 for the software.
That
Kind of-
seems hard, wanna do.
Yeah.
I think. that-
Well, it's a combination of the invoicing, mailing and software,
All right, but
so
it
it's kind of,
still seems kind of high.
it seems high.
Well, mailing is very, although it goes through our machines, it's still very expensive.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's what, well, I don't know,
About 70, it's kind of like it's 70, so maybe 65.
so what is the postcard? Do they do it like on a postcard? Kind of mailing?
No, it's kind of, it'd be an envelope with a return.
All right, so 60 cents,
No, closer to $1. When we send
Oh.
out ballots, it's almost $1 an envelope.
I wish they would mail out ballots.
Well, that's not our choice.
I know, but I wish they didn't. But maybe I'll mail in a ballot and go down the poll site, so. And vote the place.
You can't- Not if you're gonna count it.
How much you count here?
Oh, if I'm
You can't
counting
work
it, but I won't know.
Okay, so
All right, so what do we wanna do? Do we wanna change it to, half, 15,000? I don't know.
It seems like a big number.
It just seems. 8,000 for staff salaries. One big thing.
and then we may not use it. It's kind of like, if-
Why does it cost so
I
much?
thought, well, see, I'm just thinking, I mean, I've done. I've had so many different jobs in my career, but I've done. Like. Inputting data.
Yeah.
And, okay, so however many households. How many tax bills, say, whatever the tax bill.
didn't somebody say about 3,100?
It's like,
And,
and
and we said,
you're
this,
paying them a couple, an hour or two.
But doesn't
more.
it go, when you're billing, doesn't it just go through with I mean, you're not like to type in the name in. It goes. through
yeah,
the-
but there's gonna be managing people that dropped off, or dealing with the.
Well, you
non
have,
elections.
well, you have to keep up with, somebody's gonna be able to go into, change names or for the when property turns over and stuff, you
Yeah.
gotta change names, like the sucky new town website that I hate. But sometimes even the old website had outdated names that somebody didn't
2 or
go
3
in.
years.
Yeah, it didn't go in, so somebody's gonna have to go in, once it's established and periodically update. Property
Here's a
transfers,
question for you.
so I don't know if that happens, because you're gonna do it with the property tax.
Yeah.
So that would be kind of automatic to that address.
Once you get set into it.
Yeah.
Once the program gets set into the property.
Yeah,
Right,
so,
yeah.
so it should be. The upfront cost should be, yes, a little more, but once it's all, the data is all input, it should be relatively easy. However, they manage property tax receipts would be the same, there'd be no difference. So it should be minimal, staffing after it's up and running, whatever it is that they're doing.
Right, so maybe this is the initial staffing to get it.
But still seems excessive, but that's just me.
Where do we go for another number?
I'd like to see 15,000. But.
And then if
They
they
need,
need more, come back at the special.
Because I'm afraid,
But,
I
and
know,
again, my personal is, at this point, I would have probably preferred a free cash to use it. Because it's not in the budget yet, we don't know that it's gonna be useful enough and put in the budget. It's kind of like they're estimating it, do a free cash now. And then
and pay the actual bill at the
Pay-
end.
pay the actual bill, the actuals at the amount, that I suppose, free cash. Free cash makes it difficult to
Okay, but
divide.
I'm kind of,
between the lines.
what do you think, Andrea?
I'm more of a cynic that if you give them 25,000.
They're gonna want 30 next year.
Well, they're gonna spend the whole 25,000,
Well, they
whether they need to or not, and then yeah, you're right. So I'd rather give them
15.
15,000.
Yeah.
And-
Let us figure it out.
Then they'll let them figure it out, and
If it's more than
if it's more than okay, then you gotta come back and tell us why it's more, but I'm afraid, I just wanna give them the 25,000, because,
they'll spend it.
yeah, and.
I don't exactly understand. I mean, we've been talking and you brought up points I hadn't even thought about. I thought that money was to hire experts or whatever to form a plan, to work with the treasurer and several other people to
No, I
form
don't,
a plan
No.
for collection. No?
no, I don't
Well,
think so.
There's a little bit of that, it's
Well-
working with the software company to get the software set up, buy the
Yeah.
license and
some
access
training,
and
some little training.
and support for getting it set up. So
Well, this isn't gonna take a.
Why do we need,
Two people, one person?
no, well, it depends. I just did some estimates. I did, the number here was 8440. And I said for a year. And then I said, okay, at say $22 an hour, I'm probably low. That's 383 hours, and
Okay.
that's 7 hours a week.
Okay,
So,
What's that come to?
well, that's your 8,440 for paying a staff member.
and you
It's
took
7
it,
hours,
7 hours a day, I don't,
seven hours a week.
a week,
If,
all right.
if we wanna go to days,
Oh, no,
Yeah,
no.
it's kinda like,
No,
but I mean, we're talking, I mean, if it's 7 a week, we're talking about an hour and a quarter a day.
okay, all right, okay. All right, then, and that comes up to like $22 an hour.
Yeah,
why
and
would
so
it be seven days a week instead of 5 work days?
No,
As we
7
usually
hours.
define a week.
yeah,
Oh, 5 a week, yeah, well, no, he's saying an hour and a half, or
yeah,
something, an hour and
an
a
hour and a
quarter.
quarter, so it's 7 hours a week and thinking the 5 days is kind of like.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's probably not unreasonable
Mm,
to do that kind of monitoring once it's set up, that's probably reasonable.
okay, that's why, I mean, it may be bigger chunks some days than others, but just
But yeah, I
bringing it down to
an hour and a quarter for doing that should be.
Yeah.
Even if you get somebody with half a brain, but then some days.
Now,
it's-
if we hired somebody here, this would just be a consultant.
No.
No, they,
We're not gonna get involved in hiring a person with benefits and all that stuff, are we?
no, this is additional hours for existing people
Yeah, somebody who's already working in the treasury.
in the treasury's department, yeah.
Yeah, so whoever's doing the property taxes. Maybe they just need to work an extra, or put aside an hour a day to just
Mhm.
monitor or update or.
Right.
Or even when they're inputting whatever they do with the property taxes, cause if this is gonna be on a line on the property tax, I mean, it's whatever
Mhm.
they do.
That
it
would be
just-
the assessors.
Then they would just do an extra line, it would just be typing, go.
Right, yeah,
Monitoring an extra line on the tax bill, it can't be that hard.
no, I think it's on the transactional side, so it's the treasurer's office that is gonna be taking the payments. I mean, that's a piece, people will come in and pay it too, it's kind of like this.
Well, yeah, some people come in and pay
But
their.
why
property.
wouldn't that be any different than any of the payments that they take in now?
It's not, but it could be additional to what they do.
Yeah, I mean, it,
Well, yes, but that's, departments are supposed to grow, their salaries
Well-
grow every year.
I mean, it's probably another 5 minutes really when you think about it, cause you're taking another payment, but.
Right, I multiply it by the 3,100 homes, it's kind of like.
Yeah, so I'll go with okay, since you calculated out that, okay, I'm good with that, but. I still don't wanna give them 25,000,
Well, let's give them 15 this
But
time.
that's
I still want.
so we would recommend a change to 15 from the 25, and if they
If they
come back
need
and
more?
need more,
Yeah, I think,
but,
but like
If-
Carol said, if you give them 25, they're gonna spend 25,
right,
No matter what.
no matter what.
and we don't know, again, we don't know, we're gonna implement it, but if the. I'm thinking,
Well,
I'm thinking
yeah.
20 now, because if the software itself, estimates are, sorry, and 16.5 for the invoicing, mailing and software.
But I don't know why the invoicing costs that, would have that much of a cost. If you're paying property tax bills, it's gonna be a line on your property tax bill, I mean, how much? It's on a separate
Yeah,
invoice.
but the programming, and we talked about the consultants paying for the licenses, getting somebody to program it in
I still,
and identify it, dividing out the numbers, it's kind of like,
yeah,
it's kind of like. We don't know it's kind of like, we don't have any idea what what is needed to support the program that's gonna be implemented, because we don't have the program. Yes,
Don't know what the program is, but,
so it's,
so it based,
Do you,
wish
do you know if they could set this up as an enterprise fund? So that the money that came in for trash pickup, would mount, and then, because I forget the difference, it was just $1 or $2. But he quoted us one figure for what it costs now. And he quoted another figure for what it would cost with us if we did it our way. And that it was a little bit higher, which would be reasonable to cover extra costs through the year and stuff. But if you send it up as an enterprise fund, then it would go in there and be voted out at town meeting for a year's worth of business. And it would seem to me that that would be a very simple way to do it. Not unlike the way the water department does it.
Oh, we can think about that. I don't think that would be a bad thing.
no, I don't think it would be a bad thing either. The money gets put in there and then used by the Board of Health to pay the bill when it comes in, authorize it on the warrant. Good for conversation for tomorrow, I guess, in that
Yeah.
meeting. And that
Yeah.
on process.
okay.
Okay. So we
Is it cheaper to? You know how right now we were doing, what the heck do we do? We separate our recycle.
Oh, yeah,
But sometimes the trash truck comes by, everything just goes in the back of the trash truck. So it gets,
with
so why are we, if they're doing that, why are we paying for that? Why, wouldn't it be cheaper just to throw everything in and?
that there needs, it wouldn't necessarily be cheaper, but it would be the same price as what
Would be the
as
same
the
price, yeah,
services we're getting.
yeah.
The
How do you
convers-
justify that, though? I mean,
well, it comes from how recyclables are handled in town, in that we contaminate all our recycles, so they can't bring them to a recycle, so they have to go to trash, so they just tip the whole road
and
as trash.
then they go through it and recycle it.
No, they
No.
don't.
It just goes.
it just
It just goes, it
Goes
goes,
incinerated or something, or?
no,
it,
goes and go to landfills, do
It-
we even have incinerators
it-
anymore?
we,
In
there
Lowell-
are different.
They're in Lowell, there's.
Oh, is there still
There's-
incinerators?
I think so.
Oh,
There's,
okay.
I don't know.
there are some incinerators around.
Still.
Oh,
Still,
okay, I
in
thought they were
Pembroke.
all, I guess I thought they were all outlawed.
They probably should, but
Yeah, but it's because the recycles are mainly contaminated, so they're
Right,
they're really
right.
separated out. It's kind of like we do the single source recycling, so everything's in
So
together.
you telling me I gotta stop washing my cans?
I hate to say this, but I do the same thing. I wash
I
everything,
wash cans, bottles,
but
jars.
I don't want it to smell.
Yeah, well,
Well,
that's
yeah.
it. It's kind of like it's
But
going
I
to
don't wanna put yucky stuff in my recycling, so I mean, anything that's in my recycling,
Right.
I wash.
Right, yep.
It's all,
Yeah, it keeps
it's
the
all,
buckets clean, there's no
Yeah.
sticky,
it's, everything's clean. You can reuse my cans.
and that becomes the issue is, is there something more to be done with training
Well,
and all that? going to the
maybe
code
there
is
needs to be more education on contaminating recyclables, because I bet a lot of people don't even have a clue.
No, but on a day when it snows or rains, my cardboard's out, my paper's out, mixed in with everything else. The wet,
Oh, see, I don't, if it's raining or anything, and it's, I don't put it, I don't, yeah.
well, and that becomes part of, is that training and things that.
But
Board of
then
Health
again,
has to
in
do.
Westford, the
Mhm.
trash Nazis told me if I didn't have my recycling out, didn't matter whether it's raining or icy, they were gonna pick up my trash.
Oh,
Well,
and that's-
Should we recommend go back and recommend this for 15,000 and
But if the
Right,
software is
25.
16, if the software is 16, it's like,
Oh, software 16?
yeah. they're-
Do you
they're
think
coming in-
so?
Well, it says,
Oh, yeah.
Invoicing?
I don't
All right, so you said how many houses that you'd have to mail to?
This households are what,
it's, I think it's
3100.
3,100,
30,
3,500.
3450.
3450, okay.
3450, so at the most, you said it would be like a buck at the most, all right, so. All right, so. Then the software's. So invoicing, I don't know how much that would cost,
Right, and.
so the
those are pieces.
invoicing's probably another,
So a breakdown, we're looking for a breakdown, more detail
yeah,
in there,
yeah.
kind of like, and then we will.
How much is the,
We would recommend the number match the software, and for now, use existing salaries and. It's kind of like, until we have a point where we're actually implementing it, the salaries shouldn't matter.
no,
Right,
that's right, you're right. But yeah, I'd like to see the invoicing, mailing and software broken out.
Yeah.
Into the actual cost.
mhm. So we're just holding out these one then?
I think so, we, more information,
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah, we had the actual cost of those items.
okay. Well, let's see, hold on. Now, number 7.
No, that sounds like there's something that has to be paid.
Well, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But, I gotta tell you though, it did not come up with capital plan. But, I understand that it has to be paid, but whoever takes care of that portion, they need to take care of that portion.
well, and again,
I know we have to pay it, there's no doubt in my mind.
yeah, but
But
the other thing
but if
is,
you want something,
with a corrective or preventive action,
right,
in my notes, I just say. Any changes to capital planning procedures to prevent similar occurrences in the future?
Yeah.
And the answer is probably gonna be yes, because we gotta figure out
right,
how to pass the information year over year into a spreadsheet. Where is it located? How do we make sure something doesn't fall out? That kind of piece.
So should we just vote on this article?
I think so.
Yeah.
Be done with it?
Yeah, well, we need to make a motion to
Yes.
approve
Okay,
or
right,
recommend.
Ben, I'll make a motion to recommend Article 7.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to recommend Article 7, which is paying $13,200 for the cat lease. Yep. Caterpillar.
That's the last, isn't that the last, I think it's the
That's,
last payment.
it said that was the last payment.
Yeah,
Well, that's good.
Yeah, right, so it won't happen on
13,000
this.
won't happen next year, right?
Right, yeah.
Right, so I'll second, you second, okay, we're voting now.
If there's no other questions, we will vote, and the yes vote is recommending the pay.
Carolyn Bezikas, yes?
Carol Hobson, yes.
Andrew Wood, yes.
Ron Hayes, yes.
Don, I have a
Yep.
question. If
Okay,
he said that if the school accepted that one amount, that the budget would be balanced, right? For the schools.
so, yeah,
Well, are we also on this warrant have increased? Will those increases put us out of a balanced budget?
I haven't seen the final numbers, but the answer is supposed to be no, it won't put us out of balance. The main reason it's not putting us out of balance is the estimate of the additional $500,000 that are coming from the trash collection.
Oh, okay.
So I think that's the main piece that we're we really haven't hit yet is that's where we come back into balance, is that there's an additional revenue source, which is trash fee. And I think really that's really part of the presentation is, and it needs to be, we're trying to balance a budget, we're trying to do it by the fall with the following changes. Because that's really what the picture is and how we're trying to balance the budget is we're increasing things and now how did you increase the revenue? So the revenue was increased by 500,000 for the trash fees. It was increased by 100,000 for the ambulance money. And all the different changes that we've made. And then the last item, which is trying to borrow from reserve fund to balance it. So, and the 22,000 are now is about, what was it, about 15,000 of the articles that were closed out that are coming back. So there's little bits of money here and there, the reductions in the salary paid to the town administrator and the auto fees. All of those little deductions are added to the 500,000, and the other pieces is what's trying to bring it back into balance. But it's a one-time balance. And we're throwing a couple of curveballs at them with, recommending to break out the cruisers from the others and make it.
Should we vote on Article 8?
Yeah. It's just reducing that, we should accept it.
Yeah.
Those are the pieces. So, yeah, so Article 8 is recovering and reallocating these funds where there was a little bit of money left over after some of the after the purposes were used. So these are the balances remaining. So it's going to be 18,750 transferred back into the general fund. And that was the number I was actually looking for.
I'll make a motion to accept the 18,750 as a reduction from the above.
Yeah, to claw back.
Categories.
Yeah. Okay,
And I'll second it.
okay, so we have a motion to close these accounts and bring, or the department heads had discussed with the town administrator, and they say they
Return those.
to return the funds, so a yes vote will recommend, the finance committee will recommend Article 8. Roll call vote,
Carol Mazik, yes.
Carol Hoff says yes.
Andrea Wood, yes.
and Don Hayes, yes.
Number 9, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Oh,
Right, now,
When she finishes her,
yeah, so again, yeah, I mean, it's keeping up with Mass General Law.
Correct.
There's no money in FY 25, which I think gets into our recommendation sheet, that we say there's no FY 25. But we're following Mass General laws and putting a stipend in for FY 26. It's not a stipend, it's the line. If certification is passed and she has this certificate, again, similar to other departments that have the same.
so,
Just so that you know, it doesn't, it won't make a difference, but a long time ago, that's why on the budget, when you see longevity to employees was originally established to accomplish what this article does. Not that they shouldn't get it as well as an extra thing, because there are a lot of people that, have a job, but you don't get a certification for that job. You're not But, so you do know, I just thought you'd like to know that this is an issue that has been addressed before.
I'll make a motion. Did you want the motion?
Yeah, okay. Take a
Make a
motion.
motion to pass on to approve article number 9.
Okay, sorry.
And I'll second it.
Okay, so we're gonna recommend Article 9 to pass. Any further questions on it or discussion? Roll call vote.
Carol Mazikas, yes?
Carol Houses, yes.
Andrea Wood, yes.
And Don Hayes, yes. Um,
That's the easement, the $4,000.
it's a $4,000 easement to,
Weren't we told originally that that would be no cost to the town at all? I know we were, because that was one of the things I started, because I didn't see how it could be no cost to the town.
right. Yeah, I think it was originally presented as no cost, and it was started in just taking a look at old copies that he had.
2019.
No, this, it definitely, in the update that was sent last week, the $4,000 started to be mentioned at that point, so I'm sure Russ mentioned it last week in the update, yeah, it was July, the 30th, so it was Tuesday, almost a week ago.
Is there any reason why this couldn't wait until, the 26th budget?
Unless the person wants his money.
Right, yeah, I think the
person,
work,
I think, yeah,
I think the work's been done, and so they're looking to,
Oh.
yeah.
They did
Yeah.
the work without the money to do the work? Oh,
well,
Moses.
it was pooling, and so he wanted,
I think that the property owner wanted some compensation for the
For the-
discharging whatever, so.
Right, discharging the water.
On his property, so it's not
Oh.
unreasonable.
Well, you want to avoid, and at any rate, whatever the property owner wanted or anybody else, it's a potential flooding issue, and that's always a problem for everybody.
Yeah, so and the 4,000, I don't think is unreasonable, so.
right,
Is that a motion?
Oh, so should we make a motion to
We-
recommend Article 10?
we can.
I'll second it.
Yep, we'll accept that motion to.
Second it.
Okay, so we have a motion to accept article or recommend Article 10. Any further discussion?
Carol Mazikas, yes?
Carol Houses, yes.
Andrea Wood, yes.
Don Hayes, yes.
What is this?
Okay, so
Almost done.
maybe
Maybe.
it's kind of like, because this is where we had asked them to do a new article
Oh, yeah,
before we get to Article 11.
so we wanted to put the article about the police cruisers in before the stabilization article.
Right, yeah. And again, this is a request coming in, and I'll get it up to Ross.
Is it coming out of stabilization?
Not yet. Okay, so we had discussed earlier in Article 3, they had 4 items,
Yeah. Oh, yes.
So,
and so the cruisers was the
issue.
last item. And so we talked about creating a new article just before the stabilization article.
All right.
And so this would be, changing the,
Why can't we just do, like, what article was that? What was the
it
number?
was
3.
three.
Why couldn't we keep it together and do, Article 3A and 3B?
I don't know if you,
We've done that before.
have we?
Yeah, I did it on town meeting floor one day.
Okay,
I mean, that
Because
works.
they made it, they did it they put two articles as number 21.
Okay,
So-
yep, so you made it A and B.
Right.
Okay, so you do this Article A and then go
B.
Article B and just go Article 3,
3B.
B, 3B.
Or 3A.
And then you can just,
You just keep them together that way, and then there's not a real question about where did this come from?
Yeah.
Why did it get separated? Because it's the same,
and then you take the D off, right? Because then it'd be its own,
it'll be its own.
Right.
so you can take the D off, okay. That works for me,
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
and then you don't have to renumber,
well, that's it, that you don't have to read that.
yeah, that works.
Okay, so I gotta undo.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then the description stays the same, so yeah, that's.
Right,
Yeah,
keeps it in,
yeah.
keeps it in
all-
order.
Yeah.
I like
that.
that are reduced, keeps them together.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay,
Thank you.
so we have it and we're asking it to be 47.5.
Yes, correct, yes.
Good, you brought it in. New equipment reduced to 47.5 eliminates the need for a fall, which is
Right,
failed to meet quorum. It's kind of like, we're trying to look out for the better.
But
that's a lot cheaper too, not to have another meeting.
It is, but this will increase the ask on the stabilization
Right.
fund. But the plan was to use free cash for this, so
Right.
now the free cash, instead of going to two lines,
Right.
we only have one article to
Right.
replace stabilization. Yeah,
See,
okay, so we're changing things on the fly.
do you know how much they're getting for the sale of those town properties?
they were all different prices.
Okay, there were three different prices. There were three properties. There was 97 Main Street. There was Haynes Road, and there was one of the condos on Pittsburgh Road. I think one with the condo was about 71 and the other two were about 170,000 apiece.
100 and around that.
Yeah, so that's 340 plus 70, about 410.
Just out of curiosity, do we have any more properties coming up like that?
Similar.
Similar?
We had, the properties committee had recommended, to sell 182 Warren Road. And that had been presented to the Board of Selectmen. They were trying to work something, the backside touch,
Mhm.
touch property that they got, Massachusetts Wildlife was on.
Oh,
And so they were trying to work whether they were gonna split it up, but that
Oh.
seems to be. And the other one that was voted is when the water department moves
Oh.
totally into the
Oh,
new
yeah.
harbor station, Main Street will become available to be sold. So there'll be two properties.
So
Yeah.
is this gross? This 410, is that what they're netting, or is there expenses coming out of
There
that,
would be, I think the expenses were paid above that.
paid above that?
Yeah, I
So-
mean, you know, those are rough numbers. I mean,
Yeah,
okay.
but, so the town could be netting 410 out of this.
And that's why we're talking about free cash being higher than normal next year. It's because of these three properties being in the free cash calculation.
Excuse me, one of the, I don't depend on the water department building because I seem to remember in my mind that they bought it out of their enterprise fund. That the town didn't buy it for them.
Okay.
Just keep it in mind.
Yeah, I thought,
Something comes up.
yep, we'll go back. I thought I remembered that water department had transferred it back to the town. Or there's gonna be a transfer back to the town when water
Yeah.
department.
They'll
When the
give
water-
it back to the town, but I expect that they would expect some remuneration for what they paid out of their enterprise fund as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I just don't know.
Yeah, no, that, could be good. Good to know. It's kind of like, I'll go back and visit the property committee minutes and see what was there.
One of the bad things we do is so often we depend on something, and then when it falls through, we're all a sea again. I'm glad you're gonna check on it, because that way, if we can't do it,
Mhm.
or they get the money and then just give the building to the town, well, then there's gonna be extra expenses and maintenance to us, and we will know what the intent, them giving us the building is nice, but they may want the money that they spend
Yeah.
it first.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
then
I'll-
again, maybe the town did buy it. I don't know, but I seem to remember that they took it out of the enterprise.
Okay, yeah, I'll go back and hit that one. And again, those properties aren't probably gonna be sold
Next year.
into calendar year 25. So it would be, either FY 25 free cash validated in December of 25, or it would be FY 26 before we'd see any of that. So, the money I'm talking about that is gonna be certified with the FY 24 free cash is the 3 properties that were sold last November. So, not counting on that money, other than I know what was sold and the parties did pay, and the money was deposited, so it's the free cash should certify it's rather high and be able to pay us back. So now we come to the big one, the stabilization transfer. If the number was around 121 last, or let me. I think he.
123, 265
65, yeah.
was the
So let
deficit.
me update that, 123, 265. So I'm just doing my formula. Okay, and I'm adding in the 47.5 that we just added back in
Oh, yeah.
cruisers.
Mhm.
So the stabilization transfer would be 170,765.
170,000.
Yeah.
165.
765.
770.
Yeah.
765. You're right. Yeah.
One of the things that Ross said that bothered me, it
Mhm.
just, not that he said it, but it changed my line of thinking, is that if we vote this out, they said that it would be replaced with free cash. But we use free cash for so many other things,
Mhm.
either we wouldn't put it back, or we just have to vote out another amount to pay for the things that we couldn't afford from free cash that we put into the stabilization fund.
Right.
It so many of these things are getting to be vicious circles.
So what's the difference between free cash and stabilization?
Okay, free cash is the money that was available after you paid all your bills on your budget. So you started with your budget from May. It's kind of like, and it started in July of the year. You got to the end of the year, you had paid all the bills based on the budget numbers, and it turns out you didn't have to pay as much on some of the lines. So free cash is that money that was collected above and beyond
Your expenses.
your expenses, and sometimes if there's an increase in revenue that you weren't expecting, people bought all new cars, and so excise tax was a lot higher
Mhm.
because of what price of cars these days.
Yeah,
It kind of, so there might have been a bump in some revenue, so you got more revenue than you anticipated. So it's a combination of some of the bills didn't come in as high, and maybe there was some revenue. At the end of it, the information is fed to, Department of Revenue, and they certify what our free cash available is for the year.
okay.
Usually do that in November,
And do
December.
you know how much that is?
It's typically around 300,000 itself, and now if we add this other value to it, it's gonna be double what we usually get.
Okay, so now what's the stabilization fund?
Stabilization fund is money that's put away to manage some very large.
Unexpected.
Well,
Like a furnace
unexpected,
breaks down?
like a furnace breakdown of the roof, we need a new
Leaks,
roof
okay.
on town hall. Unanticipated that we were gonna need it, or,
So where does that stabilization money come from?
that stabilization money comes from, over time, we move money from free cash into stabilization.
So it comes from free cash?
It will generally come from free cash, we don't.
Did it come from somewhere else or just mainly from free cash?
I'd say mainly from free cash, there might have,
Okay, so,
Yeah, I think we always raise it from available funds.
Yeah.
okay, all right.
Yeah.
So if you're robbing free cash or you're robbing stabilization funds, what are you gonna do when you?
well, that's the thing, it's kind of like we're saying, we don't have enough free cash certified to use right now. So we're talking about using stabilization money
Cover the deficit.
to cover the deficit in our anticipation that we're gonna have a large enough windfall of free cash this year because of the sold properties, that first we pay back stabilization and bring that, and then additionally, we'll use the remainder for the other things we use free cash for, whether it's a capital project, whether it's,
Okay,
some other projects that come up, something else around town.
okay, so we get about 10,000, whatever.
Right, and that's.
From the property,
from-
so.
Yep,
So that would actually cover the 170 plus deficit.
right.
Okay. Now, is there a requirement that if you to take the free cash and put it in, pay the stabilization back?
That was what Russ was explaining, that we can't put an article in here or like a section B that says the first payment has to come to stabilization. You can't tie future town meetings to something we're doing here. We can only count on people being in place and following what we've been told. It's kind of, and I will say,
Because when it says the plan is to replace, well, what if the plan falls through and
Right.
you
The
don't?
plan has always been to replace, we just have not done it.
So there's no
there's
anything
no-
that says you have to replenish it.
right, there is.
There's no
there-
payback
there is no-
requirement.
There is no absolute payback requirement.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, so if we're doing this, we would be doing it on the hopes that the next warrant article, the next special town meeting, whether it's in the fall or whether it's in the annual, that the first thing we do in free cash is to pay back this stabilization. So,
Oh, so just by saying yes to this article, so the town votes yes on this article,
mhm.
and it says right here, the plan is to replace, you mean you gotta go back And have another
We
article,
have to have a warrant article that says
Says
move from free cash.
even though we basically
Into
said that's what we're gonna do. Well, that seems dumb, but all right. So,
Right.
okay,
Yeah, those are words, they're not in the motion.
okay,
Those are just a description that says we're gonna pay it back.
okay, all right, I get it.
It's
I
kind of
don't
like,
like it, but I get it.
no, it's kind of like, and that's the whole thing with this stabilization money. It's kind of like,
Yeah, because then you're not, then something else comes up and you're not paying it back and then,
right, and so you have less percentage of your budget is, so if we're, we were about 8% of our budget is in stabilization, taking 200,000 or 170,000 out of it, we're now gonna be down to about 6% of our budget is in stabilization.
and you just hope the roof doesn't blow off or something, something,
Right.
So you
Yep.
sit out of luck, then what do you do?
Right, so it's a,
Okay,
this is the hardest one, I think, to get through. It kind of,
and now, so if this gets voted down, then what happens? Just say it gets voted down.
right, then we have to start looking at cuts or changes back on the other. So. So it's kind of.
Unless, Ross said that unless they voted the sum, the school voted the sum that
Right,
that
Oh.
they put in there, then we wouldn't have to take anything from stabilization. Didn't he say that?
yeah, so
Okay.
if we take the 170 off of the school and offer them 500,000 instead of 691. You kind of, we don't need the stabilization transfer.
Okay, all right, so,
I
okay,
don't think that'll happen.
I don't think that'll happen. It kinda-
No, I don't either.
I don't think it would happen, but hey,
Not gonna happen.
miracles happen.
Yeah, sometimes.
So do we need to make a motion to recommend this article, or is this just goes on no matter what?
No, I think it's up to us that we need to recommend, but we also recognize what dire straits this can put us in if we don't punish it. It's kind of like so that, it's up to the town to vote and balance the budget. It will be our vote too, to say, we can either recommend or not recommend, in order to balance the budget. I guess we sort of have to recommend, but it balances the budget, but are we
There
doing,
doesn't seem to be any other way, yeah.
right?
Yeah, if there's no other way, then I guess you're stuck with.
Right, but in our recommendation sheet, we will put, that how torn we are about moving money from stabilization without a guarantee that
It's gonna be.
it's gonna be
Yeah,
replenished.
yeah,
And it is kind of like, and ask the town to support us at the next special town meeting, whatever it is, whether it's fall or that we replenish the stabilization fund to prop us back up. And maybe even more. It's kind of like maybe we want to get to 10% of our budget in stabilization. And that would be helpful. So we can ask for their help in the recommendation sheet. I kind of like that.
yeah, that sounds good.
It's gonna, just as we babble along.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay, yeah,
Okay, so, after all that discussion, are there additional questions on it, or are we ready to make a motion?
Ready to make a motion for Article 11,
Recommend
recommend,
stabilization okay,
I'll make a motion to recommend Article 11.
thank you. Do we have a second?
Second,
Thank you. any further questions or have we talked it out?
Cut it out.
Okay, okay. Okay, then I guess we are at the voting time.
Carol Mazekas, yes.
Carol Hoff says yes.
Andrea Wood, yeah.
Okay, and Don Hayes, no, I think it's very, just very apprehensive, but motion carries 3-1.
Well,
Um,
I don't see any way out, but I'll go halvesies with you. I'd rather vote no than yes. I just didn't see anything else to do.
I don't see anything else either, but I also want,
You wanna be on the record?
I want the, in our recommendation sheet, I want people to see that
It wasn't all,
we're having a hard time with this. It's kind of like,
And
um,
that's fair,
right,
cause,
it's kind of,
because I'd be happier if I had a firm commitment that those funds would be stuck back into that fund,
Right.
because.
yeah, you're using us as a piggy bank, replenish the piggy bank.
And I just don't like. When you have a budget, and you know what, if you have to make tough cuts, you gotta make tough cuts.
Right, and if,
no matter what.
No matter what, nobody likes the tough cuts, but you know what, we all have household budgets. And you know, sometimes we can't go out to eat because we don't have the money, or we
That's right.
can't go buy that, you know, lobster or whatever.
Yep.
And,
yep, I'm with you, it's kind of like, and it's
you know-
getting tighter.
yeah.
It's kind of like,
When you have an unexpected expense, like I just had to replace a water heater. I mean,
Oh, we break it, the solid gear flood.
well, it flooded once. They repaired it. I mean, the water heater was like 2 years old. It flooded the basement. They repaired it. I have a tankless water heater, so it's gotta be cleaned every whatever. So they came this year to clean it. And he took pictures and he says, he says, we know we replaced it only a couple of years ago. And he says, all corroded.
Oh, no.
And he says, it's on the brink of letting go again. I says, just replace it. So he says, we don't recommend whatever the builder put in the house. He said, we never put these in.
The builder grid.
But he said, these are terrible water heaters, so.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's my sad story, but that's my stabilization budget.
yeah, that's your stabilization.
Budget would, but,
Yeah.
and now I have to replenish it.
Yeah.
So I can't go out to eat as much as I'd like to.
Okay, so back to, it's here somewhere.
Wow.
We didn't come here for it.
Yeah, this is our full,
This is a
full budget
yeah.
one, and I
You
apologize.
have
that
to
it
do,
was-
you have to get it talked out and you have to,
Think about it, yeah,
yeah,
it's just a lot to think
but if,
about.
you know, the budget doesn't go there are gonna have to make some tough cuts. no
I
matter
think
what.
so, if things change, you don't know how it's gonna vote, how the vote will go, so. We will hit it, we actually still have 2 that we have to recommend, and we do have a meeting next week, it won't be this long, we'll just cover, what's on the agenda for next week. And I know Jerry, you're not gonna be here,
Happy
I will-
birthday.
Well, thank you.
happy birthday,
Thank you.
enjoy it. Andrea, I know you said you could make it, Carol,
Here, I should be there.
okay, at 6 o'clock next week.
I think I have it on.
And I'll try to get a hold of Sam and make sure he's gonna show up. We definitely need a quorum.
I should have fun tomorrow at trash meeting.
Yeah, it's 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'm in town and it's kind of like, I may be able to attend if you want. Just
It's not fun. Like I said, I printed off some stuff off the website.
Yeah.
So, and this one website had like frequently asked questions about trash and stuff, so I said, oh, these are kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, always good to.
But I'm glad you brought up, whoever brought up about the fact of how they're gonna prevent
Yeah.
your tax dollars. If you didn't pay
Right.
your trash fee, that somebody doesn't inadvertently
Apply.
apply,
Yeah.
and then you're taxed, yeah, that's
Mhm.
I hadn't thought of that one, that's That's a good one.
Okay,
Don, can I ask a question?
sure, yep. Before we wrap up,
That's all you need from me is another question. Um,
Oh, we have to adjourn, don't we?
Yeah.
We haven't done that.
what, heaven forbid, but
Mm-hmm.
what if we don't get a quorum for the special town meeting? Will they just reconvene another day for so many times? What,
yes, if we don't get a quorum, we can't do anything with it, so they would have to readdress it, so. We would probably post for 2 weeks. 3 weeks out, maybe on September 12th, or 10th, which I think was the original date. And try again. I don't know if they have a date already in place, but yeah, if we don't have a quorum, we can't vote on these.
I understand the time frame problems and all that, but,
Mhm.
almost everybody I know is gonna be out of town.
Yeah, yep, yep,
Well, it's a bad weekend
right, and it's
before Labor Day.
I think that's the last,
Schools
weeks of
at the
vacation.
25th, you know.
okay, so, yeah, so they would start the next Monday. It's kind of like, so that could be everybody's out of town
Okay,
vacation,
getting
getting their last vacation.
I'm just coming back from vacation.
Mm,
I'll be back. I can go to town meeting, I've read right back from me.
or not if you don't.
Sorry, it's up near Bar Harbor.
So, yeah, so it's kind of like, they must have another date in mind, but I don't know what it is at this point.
Okay.
Getting that, so, but good question, it's kind of like, well,
I'll get there, back in that area.
Oh, wait, wait, oh yeah, I make my pit stop there on my way up. Stop at the Kennebunkport Plaza, and then it's like, I still got another 3 hours. Up further up,
Yeah, that's right.
further up the coast.
okay, so. Are we ready to make a motion to adjourn at 7:32 PM?
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 7:32 PM.
Second,
Okay, roll call vote to adjourn.
Carolyn Bezikas, yes?
Carol Hostage, yes?
Andrea Wood, yes?
Don Hayes, yes. With that, we stand adjourned. I thank you all for your time. I know this was another marathon session.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, and we'll see those of you that can make it next week. See you then.
Okay. So how are you spending your
Okay,
birthday?
thanks.
Well, tomorrow we're going up to, well, we're supposed to go to the beach, but now I think it's gonna rain, so I'm not sure what we are doing.
Oh, okay.
But then the next week I'm going away and, that's what we really celebrate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so, just, so you know, the meeting next week is to address the membership issue.
Oh, yes, I did read that.
Yes.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, okay.
kind of, that's why we really gotta.
Yep.
So, and truly, I thank you. It's kind of like, I feel like I'm just talking, but if everybody's happy with it, then it's gonna like,
Happy.
keep. No, we're not, but yeah.
Oh, we're getting there. Excuse me.
No,
All right, I'll see you later.
Okay,
Yep, take it
have a good
easy.
night. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Good night.
Good night.